Welcome to this week's edition of the Casual Shooters Podcast, your premier podcast for the casual shooter. This week's guest is number 2 on my Shooter of the Year points race that was just released. He was 4th at Carry Optics Nationals, 2nd at Open Nationals, and 3rd at Single Stack Nationals. If you would, join me in welcoming to the show Mr. John Vlieger. Welcome, John.
Hey, David, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving.
I sure did. How about yourself?
Yeah, it was great. Stayed home, wife and 3 dogs, and just had some great food. I made a pot roast for myself and mashed potatoes, and usual fixins. And just lounged around. It
Pot,
was a great Thanksgiving.
pot roast, no turkey, huh?
No, I wanted to change things up. I usually do a ham or a pork shoulder. Uh, I've tried a turkey a long time ago and found that between the work it takes and my enjoyment of it, my wife's vegetarian, so it's just me enjoying it. And
Okay.
to do a pot roast in a crock pot is about 5 minutes of work and just as much
Yeah.
enjoyment. So that was my personal.
Yes.
I try
Totally
to
agree with that.
I try not to get too stuck in traditions when it doesn't make sense.
Okay. Yeah, I don't blame you one bit. So if you would, John, go ahead and take a moment and introduce yourself.
Great, yeah. My name's John Vlieger. I've been in the competition shooting arena since 2013, 2014 timeframe. Really pushing hard at it since 2015, 16 area. I currently work at Mark 7 Reloading. If you want to load like you mean it, load with automation, get rid of that handle, let us know. We are running a sale right now, but that's not really pertinent right this second. My background before that, I worked at Shooters Connection Incorporated, same day shipping. I'm sure most people who are listening to this podcast have made an order from there and haven't been disappointed. Now, prior to that, I spent 10 years in the United States Army as a 13 Delta fire direction for artillery. Deployed to Iraq twice, Afghanistan once, from 06 to 16. I was doing that. Prior to that, born in California, raised in Washington State, Central Washington, and seen most of the Union in my travels in the Army, and especially with competition shooting. So I like to think I'm a little well-traveled, but I shoot primarily open division, but I love separating myself from what I know and, playing in carry optics, playing in single stack to break things up. And I found that I'm pretty good at most of them, so keep doing it, keep going at it. I'm married, no kids, but 3 whippets. For those who don't know, a whippet is basically a medium greyhound. It's not an Italian greyhound. It's Italian greyhounds I like to call rats on stilts. Whippets are a little bit bigger than that. But yeah, there are our kids, and I live in northern Kentucky, just north of Lexington, and loving what I do. Have a range on my property, and like to shoot as much as possible.
Okay. Well, there's a lot to unpack there. So we will come back to
Kind of the
that.
elevator pitch,
Right. Well, I was going to ask you about the dogs, and you talked about them, so that's good. I'm a Great Dane guy, so there's a part of a greyhound going on.
Yeah, we had a neighbor with a Dane. Love those dogs. They're great.
They're awesome. All right. Well, John, what I normally do is ask the really tough icebreaker questions right up front. Make it as difficult as possible, and then the rest of the podcast is pretty simple.
Okie doke. Let's try it.
All right. Favorite movie?
Starship Troopers.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's kind of like a cult classic type of a thing.
Campy. Almost nothing to do with the book. I have read the book.
Oh,
And it came out in the late 90s, 97, 99, something like that. And I was born in 89, 34, for those who want to know. So that was a very early exposure to sci-fi, military sci-fi. I'm a big reader of military sci-fi. Favorite series, by the way, is Expeditionary Force, the last book in the series, coming out in just a few weeks. I'm really excited. But no, Starship Troopers is, your average American boy that loves to play cowboys and Indians and cops and robbers and, bang, bang, finger guns. it's one of the best movies for that kind of person. It's a lot of shooting, a lot of action, gore, just military sci-fi. It's got a great enemy. You don't have to worry about. Uh, oh, do I feel sorry for the villain here? No, they're alien bugs trying to kill humanity.
Yeah, they're
Let's just
bugs.
yeah, they're
Kill them
bugs.
all.
Only
Yeah,
good bug is a dead bug. Remember that.
that's
And-
right.
But
Oh my goodness.
the reason that was an easy answer is I don't tend to watch movies more than once, and I've seen Starship Troopers at least 5, 10 times.
Wow.
Uh,
And it was
so kind of
1997.
97. I was right. My first guess there. So I did
Yep.
not see it in theaters, although I did see it shortly after.
Well, I was already in the military by the time you were born, John, so I'm not telling you my age.
Sorry, I wasn't
Um,
born earlier.
all right. So you are one of the few. You admitted that you read books. What is your favorite book?
This is gonna. If you're a true sci-fi nerd, you'll understand, but this might throw people for a loop. Hyperion, and specifically the Hyperion Cantos, the 3-book trilogy. It is extremely difficult to get into this book. Let me just start you off there. All right, and the first book and the third book are pretty different, but the plot twist. I'm not going to give anything away at the end of the series. I still remember it to this day, and I still think it was one of the best. I don't want to say plot twist, but tying up loose ends, giving fulfillment to the series. Like this, these are very dense books. The sci-fi kind of. I don't know how to describe it. They're not super technical. They don't really explain how things work. It's just you know.
Okay.
Anyway,
Just a lot
but
of
they're
storyline.
yeah, it's a lot of storyline, a lot of character development, and but yeah, the Hyperion Cantos. I started reading it in high school. I think I didn't finish it until I don't know, age 19 or something like that, age 20, and it was really. I would strongly encourage people who like sci-fi, who think they like sci-fi, to think of it as a really long-winded Star Wars.
It looks like more aliens.
Um, no, not really.
No. Okay. Well, I just Googled Hyperion Cantos and I see some videos, and it almost looks like there's an alien or some other type of bug looking
Um,
creature.
don't take the cover seriously. Uh,
Okay.
actually, and I'm drawing on memories of or last I read it was probably 15 years ago. But yeah. Anyhow, it's a hard read. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it.
Okay.
But no, I liked it, and that kind of says a lot about, like I said, Starship Troopers, military sci-fi. The series I mentioned, the Expeditionary Force, the audio books are over 20 hours long a piece, and there's over 15 books in the series. So
Wow.
yeah, and the voice acting is great in that series, by the way. But yeah, I have my likes and dislikes. I see reading as an escape. It's a way to get away. My wife's really into history and nonfiction. I'm the opposite. I don't want to. If I'm reading something that's factual, it's usually applied to work or something that applies to work. The sense of work and education, which is great and fine in its own realm. But when I'm reading for pleasure, I like to read things that take me to a different world.
Okay. So that begs me to ask the question. The movie series Aliens. Have you seen those at all?
Yes, and I was really into the lore, the background of it when I was younger. Alien, great, priceless, can't replace it. My dad told me about watching it in theaters for the first time, and just the chills and the effect it had on cinema was amazing.
Hmm.
Aliens, I think, is a one of the best sci-fi movies of all time. Uh, just period. I did not say Aliens. I said Starship Troopers earlier. Aliens is a close second. But Alien 3 cubed or whatever, I mean, it just went straight off a cliff, man. And Alien Resurrection, I saw it multiple times, and it's okay. It's great for the time period, but it was not in the same vein of Aliens.
Gotcha. Kind of like John Wick 4, kind of goes off
I
the
have
rails a
not.
little bit at the end.
I saw John Wick 1 and 2, and I'm not caught up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the last one, there's just a little too much falling downstairs for me.
I
Good movie, but still.
I have a hard time turning the brain off in those fight scenes, and I just think to myself how unrealistic all of it is, and it just kind of I'm not able to suspend my disbelief, unfortunately.
They're kind of easy enjoyment for me. Something easy
Hmm?
to watch. If you're into superheroes, then who's your favorite superhero? If not, historical figure.
I read a lot. I don't really have a favorite superhero. I have ones I like more than others, and part of that comes back to not being able to turn my brain off. Like once a nerd explanation for that, really nerd, is some of the most powerful superheroes in Marvel and DC, respectively. I mean, wait, no, trying to think. Yeah, Marvel and DC. In DC, the Flash is a god, basically. He's able to turn back time. He's able to vibrate through walls. He could kill people without them, realizing anything. And in the Marvel universe, uh, oh, I'm sorry, no, Iceman, yeah, Iceman is DC as well, right? Is that no, Iceman is X Men. Yeah, Iceman is Marvel. I'm correct there. Iceman can control entropy, which means he can stop the movement of your atoms, which turns him into a god as well. He could do whatever he wants with matter. Um, so those two characters tend to be undersold with their powers, and it kind of turns me off to that thing. Like it's once you see what they're capable of,
Mm.
it kind of makes it like okay, yeah, he's holding back, and it's like the opposite of Superman. Superman can do anything, and we have to keep inventing ways that tunes him back. And the Flash and Iceman are the opposite, where people don't realize how strong they are. But that's a very nerd explanation of that. I know. You know,
That's
uh,
okay.
Punisher probably, uh, especially as
Mm.
I got older. He's the anti-hero, man. Cops with like running the Punisher logo. It's like, do you know what that logo means? Like that's you're not using that logo correctly. That does not mean what you think it means. Uh, but yeah, some of the first graphic novels I got was The Punisher, and very gritty, very uh, true to the spirit of the character. I think, and I think The Punisher has kind of gotten whitewashed in that regard. What was it? The most recent series. I've only caught a little bit of it. Did pretty good though, from what I remember, showing the grittiness of it. But yeah.
Okay. Favorite gun and favorite caliber. They don't have to be linked together. Okay. So what do you have there?
Rafferty custom guns. They're my open guns. I'm and to say they're my favorite is not really accurate. Uh, I see my firearms, especially my competition guns, as tools. They were purchased for the express purpose of competing in this sport. I would not own, maybe the single stack is a really nice gun. But if it weren't for this sport, I wouldn't have gotten to know Pat Rafferty, who's a really good friend of mine these days. Um, and I wouldn't have a reason to have these firearms. Uh, so I see these guns as tools. When they wear out, they will either be replaced or repaired. It is, they have blemishes, they have uh, scratches on them, they have, all that. I've put, well, heck, this one is number one. Got a Range Panda optic cover there. This one's number one. Was built in January or early 2020, and it's still all original. And it's got. Uh, I kept track this year, but I have not kept track on individual guns. That gun probably has at least 25 on it. Um, yeah, at least 25, I'd say, 1,000, and it's still all original, still trucking. It's still original slide and barrel. Uh, but I treat my guns with respect. I take care of them. I don't abuse them. I don't throw them in dump barrels like some dirty three gunners do. But at the same time, that was a joke. At the same time, it's a tool. It's like racing cars. It's like, oh, I love this engine. It's my favorite engine. When it pops, you're not going to make a burial for it. You're going to repair it or you're going to replace it. And that's kind of how I
Mm-hmm.
see the guns. They're very, very nice guns. They do their job excellently. They're some of the best firearms I've ever had in my possession, and I like to keep them. But if when they finally break, it'll be, hey, Pat, they finally gave up, man. We got 5 years, 6 years, 8 years, whatever it is out of them. Let's start in the new ones or what have you. And I do have guns that are heirloom. I have a shotgun, a Model 9, what was it, Remington Model 10A or 10T. I have to check the serial number. But it was manufactured in February of 1914, and it was purchased shortly thereafter by my great-grandfather, and has been in the family ever since. That gun is not my favorite. I've only shot it a handful of times, but I'm not going to get rid of it. I would sell my Rafferty custom open guns before I'd sell that gun. So does that make the shotgun my favorite? No. I enjoy shooting my open guns more. I get more use out of them. I get more enjoyment out of them. But I've always had a trouble with the term favorite, I guess, is what I'm really trying to say.
Okay. I got
Sorry.
you.
The guns are tools. They are there for a purpose. If people want to have, super strong feelings one way or the other about individual firearms, they're more than welcome to. It's just not for me.
Okay. What about caliber? Do you have a favorite caliber?
I 9 just because it's so ubiquitous. Uh, you know, I'm glad A caliber won the caliber wars. It's obviously 9mm. It just makes life a whole lot easier. When you have economy of scale for those items, that's why we're able to shoot 9mm so cheaply these days, is economy of scale and demand. It's good enough for the applications it's put into. When you have, when you need a gun to do things that 9mm can't do, it's time to change calibers. It's not time to change 9mm, I guess. And for personal protection, 9mm is just fine. Oh, but 45 doesn't shrink. Yeah, but I can get 3 rounds of 9 on target faster than I can get 2. I'm pulling numbers
Yeah.
out of my fourth point of
I know what you
contact
mean.
here. But there's a lot of factors for it. But no, I'm not much of a rifle shooter. I probably will be at some point, like to. But no, pistol 9mm is readily available. The components to load it are readily available. It makes sense. It does just fine. It's put a lot of bad guys in the ground. Just fine. And especially with modern hollow point and technology and practices, putting around where it counts is the first step, and regardless of self-defense chosen caliber, and 9mm does just fine when you got a little tongue tied there. Does just fine when you do your part.
Well, John, I mean, if you don't shoot rifle, you must be racist. I mean, that's the only. That's the
I
only.
have a few of them. I'm shooting rifle tomorrow, actually. Bluegrass
Hey,
Sportsman's League
hey.
in Wilmore
Okay.
is holding a night match, which they only host once or twice a year. Toys for Tots as well is integrated into it. Your entry fee is a toy for the Kentucky Children's Hospital, I think. I'd have to reference the literature. But yeah, purchase a toy, and that's your entry fee. So I look forward to it.
Cool.
I have weapon light on my 300 blackout. Going to run it suppressed, and don't have that hanging out handy. Yeah, it's fine. It's a generic Bear Creek Upper Form 1 suppressor on it. But yeah, I do that occasionally.
All right. I'm writing down a question I'm going to ask you once we get to a certain part of the
Oh, you're fine.
show. All right. Now, you mentioned that you were in the Army for 10 years. We'll get into that a little bit more later.
10 years, 1 month, 19 days, but who's counting?
There you go. I was 9.5 in the Marines. So we'll get into all that, though. But the last question I like to ask the individual for the icebreaker portion is geared towards them. So,
Okay.
with spending that much time in the military, what was your favorite memory? Or what was your best memory? I won't say favorite.
So I've told this story a few times, and it, it it can make people be like, "That's your favorite? What the heck is wrong with you?" A little bit, like, and long story short, I wasn't special forces. I wasn't anything to write a book about. I feel like I did my job well, and the rest is kind of history. Uh, I'm proud of what I did, but there's one incident in uh, uh, Afghanistan, my third tour, 2011, 2012. This happened probably mid 12, early 12. And I was taking a shower. It was just around dusk. I was taking a shower, and the SOP in the area was around right before dusk. They chuck some rounds at us and boogie. They would use 84 millimeter recoilless rifle rounds, and they shoot them at a low angle. So our radars had trouble picking them up for where they're shooting from, and they chuck 3 rounds at us, and they get on their scooter and boogie. It took us a long time to track down who these yahoos were. But I was the fire direction center chief for that installation. It was a COP. For those of you who want to look it up, COP Zormat, Zormat, which is about 20 kilometers west of the Shahkat Valley. For those of you who are familiar, Operation Anaconda happened in the Shahkat Valley. A wonderful lesson in joint forces operations in the United States military. For those of you who want to learn about how bad it can go, look that up. But we're out there, and I'm taking a shower, and I hear a boom. And I'm thinking to myself, man, are mortars shooting a loom? They would have told me if they were shooting a loom, right? It's dusk. Maybe they saw someone in the 20 minutes I've been gone and from the operations center. Maybe they saw someone doing something weird and they're shooting illumination. And then less than like 8-10 seconds later, another boom happens, which is not the standard for shooting mortar illumination, which means we're getting shot at. So I grab all my stuff. I'm in shorts and Crocs, same Crocs I'm wearing right this second, actually. These are combat Crocs, combat approved, combat tested. And I grab my stuff and my radio and start booking it 80 meters, 100 meters from the shower stall to the operations center so I can do my job. And as I'm running between these two buildings, I hear one of those 84 millimeter recoilless rifle rounds going overhead. And till this day, I can't remember if I was saying it in my head or if I was saying it out loud. Just picture a pasty white boy running in the dark in Afghanistan between two sheds, just yelling to himself, "You never hear the one that kills you. You never hear the one that kills you." And it's just a saying you have. You're like, hey, you don't hear it because it exploded and you're dead already. You don't hear that one. And it's going over my head, and boom, it hits right, to my mind, as I'm looking, right on top of the aid station where the medics operate. And I'm thinking, well, the medics are dead. That's great. Okay, well, let's kill these guys so we can worry about that in a minute, AKA, do your job. But right before that round hits, right as it's hitting, my cadence changes from you never hear that one that kills you, you never hear the one that kills you, to I don't want to die naked. I don't want to die naked. I don't want to die naked. And that just kind of stayed with me ever since. And then I come to find out later, as I ran into the operations center, once again, I'm shirtless. I'm wearing just Army physical fitness, training shorts and Crocs. As I run in there later, I heard from two separate people, one of them being the radio operator at this desk and the other being the sergeant of the guard in charge of, the guys assigned to guard the gates and such. They both said a very similar thing, that, man, I was getting worried. They were bracketing us. They just hit the aid station like, shit, they're actually doing, what are we going to do? And then I see Staff Sergeant pasty ass white guy Vlieger run into the operations center to go do his job and try to shoot back at these guys. And I think to myself, okay, if he can do it, I can do it. And, in retrospect, I motivated at least 2 people that night by sprinting my ass off and into the talk as we were getting shot at and, doing our job. But we did not lose anybody that night, thank God. The physician's assistant, the captain, medic there, was injured. He was knocked unconscious, but he made a full recovery, and we ended up getting the guys down the road. But yeah, that's my favorite story. I don't want to die naked. Maybe that says something deep-seated about, my hang-ups, but yeah, it's a thing.
Does that mean you wear clean underwear anytime you leave the house in case you get in an accident and they have to strip you naked?
I've stopped worrying about it too much, but you never know until you're under the gun, literally. Sometimes, how you feel about something, I guess.
Right. All right. Now we'll get into the meat of the podcast.
Meat and potatoes.
Yeah. So you grew up on the West Coast. Did you grow up around guns?
So my parents are both ex Los Angeles County sheriff's deputies. My
Okay.
mom worked mostly, and this was they were both deputies in the '80s, early '80, like '80 to '89 or '88, something like that. Uh, my dad worked drugs and gangs for the most part, and he continued on to do seminars in Washington State on anti-gang, policing and such. And my mom worked the jails mostly until she became pregnant with my big sister, and then I think she took mostly a backseat. I have to refresh my history there. But to answer that question directly, we were raised around firearms. We had a vacation cabin in the boonies in Montana. We'd go to. Is there, around age 5 for myself, we start hanging out there, 94, 95, and improving it and hanging out there in our summers. And we had 20 acres. We could shoot off the porch. So age 7 ish, I was 8. I was given a BB gun and was given instruction and tested with that first. And I made some mistakes. Of course, didn't shoot my eye out. Did not have a Christmas story incident, thankfully, and went on from there. So I was looking. I'd always look forward to going to Montana because I could shoot guns, safely, and I'd go on, hunting expeditions with a 22. Shortly after, I still have that 22. It's a Remington Model 512 Sportmaster. It's a tube-fed 22 long rifle made in 59, 58, and it has no serial number. It's the only gun I own that does not have a serial number because it was pre 64. Didn't need one. But you can order it out of the Sears catalog. But yeah, I would it had aftermarket Lyman peep sights on it, and I would make shots on small game with that. Learn how to shoot with that, and then onwards and upwards from that. My mom, uh, she was held at gunpoint when she was pregnant with me and Rob. So she's not against guns, but she's not. I don't think she's pulled a trigger since that incident, and she just doesn't partake in that activity as much. But she's not against them at all. My dad is heck. I've Lotus Mammal for him and stuff like that. He still shoots here and there. And I learned how to hunt with my dad. Took my first deer at age 12 with him with a 243 Winchester in Eastern Washington. And so yeah, I would say that I had a medium upbringing with guns. It was not hunting every other weekend or duck hunting or anything. We went dove hunting, I think, once or twice, and deer hunting. But past that, hunting has always been a thing I do with my dad, not so much something I do on my own. But firearms, I got into that myself more so than with my parents when I started dating my wife. My now father-in-law took me to my first USPSA match when I was 15.
Well, that's interesting. That's not normal. I don't know how many
Uh,
people can say their very first match is with 15 with their future father-in-law. So it sounds like
yeah,
you
and
two hit it off at the very beginning.
yeah, and that's a longer story than I want to tell here. But the long story short, if you've ever heard of the boomer shoot, uh, I don't know that it goes on anymore since COVID anyway. But it is an event, or was an event in central Idaho, where you'd go out and shoot at high explosives. And this is not tannerite. It's not just tannerite. It's his own concoction. ATF license, has a bunker. Mixes his own formula. But I was an RO for that when I was 15, and I shot my first full auto when I was 15 at that event. Made my first hit on a target past, I think, 200 yards at that event, into an explosive target. Shot my first 50 BMG out of a AR-15 upper, actually, now that I remember it. It was a single shot, side magazine, bolt action, 50 BMG upper for an AR-15 at that event. So that's kind of how I got started. And yeah, took off from there.
Wow. Okay. So at what point did you know, I think I'm going to go ahead and join the army?
Um, I didn't join out of patriotism, like strictly. I am patriotic. I'm not to say I'm not to any ever say I'm not. I love this country. I love being a part of it. Love being here. That's not the question. It's so much as why did I go? I was in college. I started slacking off and paying the price. And long story short, my dad said, hey, yeah, you're gonna stay home with us and be under my thumb until you shape up. And I said, no, I'm not. And started looking at the Army. This was immediately pre-surge in our war in Iraq. So recruiting was more so: do you have a pulse? Then are you proficient at what we need? And yeah, did that. And I'll never forget. I was at MEPS doing my physical, and the guy next to me got a $40,000 sign-on bonus to be a tanker. And I got
Wow.
31,000, I think. But that was mostly because of what I was doing and leaving in 2 weeks. So I was leaving quick, I was going airborne, I was going to an in needs MOS, and I was leaving quickly. But he got 40 grand to be a tanker, and he had open heart surgery. Like, he had a scar from stem to stern where they cracked him
Wow.
open, and he got a waiver. So,
Wow. They
in
were
retrospect,
taking everybody.
yeah, in retrospect, whenever lieutenants complained about how they're promoting too quickly and all this stuff, they had a point.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. I've
Yeah,
never heard of anything like that. People being able
yeah.
to get a waiver.
Oh, you could get a waiver for almost anything except tattoos. If you had a neck tattoo back then, God forbid you have a neck tattoo and try to join. And then when we were in Iraq, that in 07, 08, they changed the policy to allow neck and hand tattoos. So several people came back from mid-tour leave with neck and hand tattoos. It's a wonderful time to be a soldier. It was great.
Oh
But
my
whenever
gosh.
whenever people talk to me about arbitrary rules, regulations, and laws, I think back to that and how they changed the rules, and it's just, yeah, I'm not a fan of arbitrary limits, I guess.
That's crazy. Which has nothing to do with proficiency or ability to do your job or anything else.
Yeah, yeah.
Crazy.
It's I was raised to be a rule breaker, rule bender, and not breaker as much as ask the question: why is that rule there? What is the purpose of this rule? Okay, the intent is blah blah blah. Okay, well that doesn't apply to me. I'm not. That's not my intent. I'm not doing that. So why does that rule have to apply to me? Well, that's just the rule, sir, because it's easier for you, not because it's the right answer, but because it's easier for you. Uh, the greatest example I have for that, as it applies to this podcast anyway, was 2017 Alabama State Championship. I won that match against Cody Baker. Those of you who have been paying attention for a long time may recognize that name. He's the 2017 Open Division National Champion. An amazing individual, very hardworking man. I want to get a beer with him. I haven't seen him in 3 years. He's a great guy. But I beat him by 1.8 points, in part because of someone breaking the rules. I was assessed a foot fault while we were shooting this match. I did not commit a foot fault, is the problem. It was a mistaken call, and I called the RO on this. I said, hey, if I show you a video, will you look at it? And under the rules, to this day, that is not the right answer. You're not supposed to use video in arbitration or for scoring issues.
Right.
Well, he looked at the video and he saw clear as day, and it's great with open division because you can see the gas come out of the compensator when a shot is fired. There's no question about the timestamp. You don't need audio to know when a shot goes off. You can see this column of smoke come up out of the comp. So he looked at it, saw the column of smoke not be at the same time my foot hit the ground, and said, hey, take his foot fault off. And I won the match. Now, the real thing about this is, under the rules, that was wrong. Under the rules, I should have gotten that foot fault, and I should have lost the match. Okay. Ethically and morally, I was in the right. One of my favorite commanders in my entire 10 years in the Army, Captain Rick B. Helton. I'll never forget that man because he said, call a spade a spade. If it's right, it's right. It's wrong, it's wrong. And I try to live that way, when I can. And that was wrong. It was wrong for me to be assessed that foot fault. It was wrong. It was factually incorrect. So I am glad that they made the right call and walked it back. At the same time, under the rules, this arbitrary rule that we can't use video doesn't take into account that accidents happen, doesn't allow for that procedure. So what I did was wrong. The outcome was morally right. It was truthful, but it was against the rules. And I posted about that, I want to say, about a year after it happened. And man, I think I stopped looking after 200 comments. It was very divided about what the
Wow.
right answer was. And yeah,
So if you were king of USPSA for a day, would you change that rule?
Yes,
I would too.
I would
But I
allow
would put
video.
limits on it.
Agreed. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
people. I've heard that comment a lot. I agree. The At the end of the day, as at minimum, as long as you're allowing a tribunal to review, hey, does this matter, and to suss it out, you're not leaving it in the hands of just the match director or just the RM, or just unofficial from NROI. You're allowing three people, and I do think that's a great idea. Or a great process we have in this sport is to have a tribunal, or have it's shooters generally. It'd be one range officer and whatever the mix is. But I think that allows for the. On one hand, it's a game, right? But on the other hand, it's a very expensive game. We put a lot of money, time, money,
Yeah.
energy, sweat, tears into this. It means something. We wouldn't be on the range doing it if it didn't mean anything. So, yeah, I would change it 100%. I think for things like specifically anything involving a DQ or safety, uh, it's kind of a mixed bag.
Right.
I'm I don't know. I'd have to brainstorm it with some educated people and come to a better outcome. But I do think there's room for it, especially in this day and age.
Yeah, I think foot faults are a very good one that it could be
Yep,
used for. I think 180, breaking the 180, unless it's so egregious that it's obvious, that's a hard one.
it's hard. Fisheye lenses, even
Yeah.
a hat cam is not going to show you, true to
Right.
life. And yeah,
Yeah.
I was a RO on the stage I DQ'd on actually in Open Nationals in 18. I DQ'd in 18, and then there's 9 days of Nationals, three consecutive back to back
Hmm.
matches, and I was ROing for production, and I was stuck on the stage that I DQ'd on. But man, it wasn't that we wanted to; it was that we had to put an RO to watch the left hand side as people went from right to left. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but basically, it was we read the stage brief, and we were like, "This is going to happen," because the if whens blah blah, it was going to be likely for people to disqualify, and it did happen. We had disqualified several people. Several people disqualified themselves. I'm still confident that the calls we made were correct, but you had to put someone there to watch for it. And then, hey man, sorry, like, well, but you couldn't see. Yes, we could. We put someone there specifically because this area is challenging and could lead to this. In my mind, it's like, hey, how about we try not to put that in the match, to make it that stupid, you know. But as well, on the other hand, it's your job to maintain control of your muzzle.
Yeah.
Ready, set, go.
It is. Yeah. I agree. I'm not a fan of, and I don't like necessarily the word trap, but
No, yeah,
sometimes it almost seems like that's what they are when it's so obvious that somebody's going to do it, you know?
there is such a
So,
thing as an RO trap, with regards to stage flow and prop placement. Uh, I posted a video for Carry Optics Nationals, and with one stage in particular, you had to shoot this one target. Like, it wasn't on the 180, but it was like, I don't know, 5 degrees, 8 degrees away from the 180. And multiple people posted their hat cam footage of that stage, and just the internet know-it-alls came out in force. Oh my god, you were pointing a gun at the other person, and this, and it's like, on one hand, yes, we could work harder to make stuff like that safer, more obvious that it is safe, sure. And on the other hand, it's no one died, go pound sand. Uh, there is room in between. I'm not saying I'm of the opinion to go pound sand here. I'm saying it's just
right.
you hear
I
the
know what you're
same
saying.
thing over and over again about how this is unsafe. And the one thing I love about this sport is we have an excellent safety track record, and I like to keep that going on.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
if we can make changes that help make that more likely, I'm not all for it, but I think it's worth considering.
I would agree. I think you could build in a little safety buffer on the edges of the stage so you don't get to the 180. But I mean, because look, people are going to DQ themselves whether it's a range, I mean, a bullet they fire over the berm when they're reloading, or they go to reload and they're just not paying attention to their muzzle. There are so many other ways that they're going to DQ themselves that I feel like you can keep it at 170 to 175 and be
Yeah,
happy. So,
Unfortunately, it can and will be a subjective thing for a lot of people. It's until and unless we strap lasers to everyone's muzzles and have sensors installed in every bay to track where that laser is reading at any given point. I mean, we have to rely on people that are fallible, because they are people, to make the call left or right.
yeah, I think the craziest DQs I've seen are the ones where it's the unloaded table start, and for some reason they'll walk around to the front of the table.
Yeah, I saw someone in Area 8 a long time ago go home without firing a shot because of an unloaded start. They had magazines in front of their gun, and they went to adjust the mag, and thanks for playing. Thanks for your
Yeah,
entry fee. Have a great day. Drive
and I,
safe.
I think I think one of the ones that I saw that was like that in Area 8 was their magazine fell off the table, so they walked around to get the magazine
Oh,
with their gun on the table, not thinking about it. I get it, but
yeah.
it was unloaded and everything, but they still flagged
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah. And that actually brings up just a real quick anecdote. When I was shooting, this was post I was in the Army, so I think I was 17 or 18 years old. I went back home to visit my girlfriend, my now wife, and shot a match with her dad. And we were sharing a gun. He had a STI Eagle gunsmith, build that we were sharing. And I went from the safe table. I didn't have a holster on me, so I just locked the slide back, put the muzzle towards the dirt, grabbed it backwards. So, grabbed it like this, so it slides locked back. It's pointed in a safe direction. It is physically incapable of firing a shot in this configuration. To me, in my Army brain, we're safe. We are completely, and through logic and fact, it is safe. It is physically,
Yes,
we're not breaking any of the four rules. We're
right,
fine, But he grabs me and says, "Don't do that, don't do that." And I'm like, "What's the problem?" So I guess what I'm really trying to say is, just because something is against the rules doesn't make it unsafe.
right. But it's just against the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So let's talk about the Army real quick. So, did you choose your MOS, or did they say, "Hey, we'd like for you to do this"?
Yeah, no, I chose, um, I chose, so initially I was, I can't remember if it was contracted or not. I don't think I signed anything at the time, but I was in line for, was about to, whatever you want to call it, sign for 89 Bravo, which is ammunition supply specialist. For those in the know, it's BB counter. Track the bullets, track the shells,
Right.
make sure stuff's accounted for. And in retrospect, I thank the Lord every single freaking day that I did not go in and do that. I, for
Oh
anybody
yeah, that'd
listening
be
who's contemplated
monotonous.
the Army can be the best thing that ever happens to you. It can be that. It probably won't be. You'll probably come out more broken. You'll have a GI Bill. You'll have some cool experiences, some new friends, and some your old friends won't understand your stories you tell about the new friends, but it's an experience, right? But holy crap, I cannot say enough how glad I am that I did not go and be accountable for ammunition while I was in. I chose 13 Delta based off of mostly the bonus. As I walked in and said, I want to do something cool. I want to do something worth doing. I'm flexible on days on when I can leave. I had excellent test scores. I had a 129 or 131, something like that GT score. I mean, I I got one of the highest scores in the ASVAB you can get. I had to pee the whole time. It was great. Uh, but I got like a 93 on the ASVAB or something like that, and my line scores were qualified me for almost anything I wanted to do. But yeah, they said, "Hey, you want to be artillery?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know. Okay, sure, why not?" So yeah, you'll be airborne. Like, jump out of airplanes? That sounds cool. Why not? Sounds great. So I was airborne contract. And that's the main thing I worried about, was doing something worth doing. I knew I didn't want to be infantry, just because it's like, hey, just walk everywhere and carry a gun. Like, that doesn't sound great. I wanted to do something neat, something high tech sounding. I guess I don't know. I was 17. Sue me. Uh, and I think I did okay. The application of it outside the Army wasn't great, but it was fun while I did it. I like to say that what I did was weaponized algebra. Uh, not even calculus, not even trig, like none of the higher math. It was very basic math that we did to shoot artillery. I'm not trying to oversell it. And anybody who is listening to this that is artillery that tries to oversell what they do, we're watching. We know what you're doing. Stop lying to people.
Just stop it right now.
Yeah, exactly.
So where did you go to basic?
Fort Sill, Oklahoma, the wonderful garden state that it is, had me from late April '06 until late September of '06 when I left for airborne school from there. But I went to basic and AIT there. For those of you who want a little piece of trivia, if you are familiar with In the Army Now with Pauly Shore, the scene where the frag grenade gets thrown, the frag grenade scene was filmed on Fort Sill. So I went to the same grenade pits as Pauly Shore. That's my minor claim to fame there. But no, it was fine. We did basic and then went 3 blocks down the road to go to AIT, which is job school, to learn the job. Got to see a tornado. Got to see extreme weather. It's Oklahoma. There's not really much else to say. Tattooing was legalized while I was there, so I got my first tattoo while I was there. But yeah, that's really all I really have to say about Oklahoma. I went back once while I was in, and it hadn't changed much. So those of you who live in Oklahoma that are listening, I am deeply sorry.
So when you went to, as you call it, airborne school, as I know it, it's jump school for when I went. That's what we called it in the Marines.
Yep, jump school, airborne school, same.
Yep. All right. I went in March of 80, a year before you were born, actually. March of 88, I went to jump school, graduated April 1st. So you went, like summer of 86, end of summer? I mean, 06?
I graduated in end of September of '06.
Okay.
So
Did they
my grandmother pinned my wings on me. It was a very great
get out
memory.
of here?
Yeah, my grandmother.
Really?
Yeah, I can't remember if she gave me blood wings or not. Blood wings being when you pin the wings on your uniform and then hammer fist them into your chest to stab them into your clavicle. That's blood wings. I did get blood wings, but I can't remember if my grandmother had the nerve to do it to me.
So did they have the towers in operation at that time?
The 200-foot towers?
Uh-huh.
Yes. I dropped off of one. I think we were ahead of schedule one day, and they said, "Hey, we're going to get some people through it," and I volunteered to go. And I couldn't hear what the sergeant airborne was yelling at me from the ground about slipping away and all that. So I'm like, "Huh? Huh?" I hit the ground just fine, and he runs up to me yelling, "Why didn't you?" Da da da. I was like, "I couldn't hear you, man." And I got to watch.
I'm sure you said it just like that.
Yeah. I got to watch a poor. So those of you who don't know, the 200-foot towers are 200 foot tall. They look like radio towers, and they drag you up with a modified parachute that's held open, and then release you to allow you to drift down and practice slipping and moving your parachute and landing correctly. It's the most realistic thing you can do without actually having to jump out of an airplane. There's a guy who was very, very scared, who was regretting his choice to join the Army and join the airborne. And he was getting strapped into this ring that holds the parachute open. And they get him like 10 feet off the ground, and the rings let go, and it collapses the chute. So they have to lower him again, reset the rings, and they drag him up, and they're about to drop him, and they bring you up a little bit and then release you, and they bring him up, and the chute collapses again, which would have been death, most likely, if they dropped him. I mean, maybe you've been okay, but not optimal. And they just had to yell at him. It's like, assume a modified position of attention. We will lower you. Stay still. And you just see him crying, crocodile tears up there, just praying, please don't drop me. Please don't drop me. It was, don't be that guy, and you'll be fine.
Right. Yeah, I got to go up on that tower as well. That is a cool time. That is fun.
What was the PX still across the street from the barracks?
Sure. Um, that was a year more than your life ago.
I know. Some people remember different things.
I do not remember. Like I don't have no idea.
For people like me that were immediately
Mm.
post, basic training and job school, that was like our first. We were still in training, like we're
Yeah.
still, babes in the woods and stuff. So that shopette was like a sense of freedom. We walked across the street and had some freedom at the shopette and could buy tobacco and energy drinks and stuff, and no one could tell us no because we're adults now. So, oh yeah.
Well, I was a corporal in the Marines. I'd already been in for
Oh, okay.
almost 3 years. I'd spent the last almost 2.5 years in Marine reconnaissance. So when I got there, the Black Hats pulled us aside and they were like, "Hey, you have to understand that for the soldiers, this is just a continuation of basic training and AIT and all of that. So it goes, we may yell at you and stuff in front of them just to make everything the same, but we were never treated like that. Plus, I had my car there. I was from Lejeune. I had my car. So me and another corporal, we were headed out. We'd go other places for lunch or out in town for dinner or whatever on the weekend. So I don't even. I probably never went into that PX.
I gotcha. And to give you some similarity, that was very similar to how any other non IET initial entry training uh, soldier or what have you at airborne school was treated. Like yes, you have
Okay.
to be information times. Yes, you have to be in the right uniform, the right time, and do the training. But
Yep.
besides that, we know you're not the same. Keep in mind, I joined in '06. They were ramping up for the surge. There was a lot of prior service people coming in. You had a lot of old faces wearing low ranks because they either joined out of patriotism or they were coming back in. Uh, AIT, jump school, all of it had people of prior service that were coming back in with stuff not matching as it should and being treated differently as they should. And that happens all the time too with when they restructure different jobs in the Army. Hey, we're getting rid of this MOS. We're combining it with this. If you're already in this MOS, you have to go back to this school to get recertified and blah, blah, blah. They don't treat you, if you're a staff sergeant, they don't treat you the same as the private going through basic training, or going through their initial training. So, yeah.
Right.
But airborne school
Now,
was the hardest part about airborne school is convincing yourself to jump. The rest of it is nothing special. But people
now
like to
did,
talk.
did did
Go
you
ahead.
ever get a chance to stand in the door of the aircraft?
No. I was number two man though for my first jump, which was
Okay.
unexpected. I got moved. I say, "Hey, private, stand up." I'm on the plane, and somebody else takes my spot for whatever reason, and I'm like, "Okay, Sergeant Airborne, where am I supposed to go?" He just points in a direction towards the tail of the bird, and I go sit down. And I sit down. I look left. Everyone's to my left. I look to the right. There's one person to my right. And it's a first sergeant. And I looked at the first sergeant. I said, "First sergeant, does this mean I'm number two man now?" You know how your brain turns off a little bit, especially when you're talking to senior officers or enlisted. And he looks at me, looks down the bird, and goes, "I imagine it does, Private." Roger that, First Sergeant. And he gets in the bird or gets in the doorway, gets prepped, and I'm standing there ready to hand off my static line and jump out. And he jumps. He goes out the door. And it was the first experience I really had with turning my brain off. Like they train you and they do it often. It's to train you so you just reactively, reflexively do it. And it makes a lot of sense because, as I'm contemplating and processing, the best way I can describe it is he just disappeared. Like in in a home or in a building, someone exits the door. They walk out the door. Hey, if I run, I could go out the door and catch up to them. Be like, "Hey, man, you forgot your phone," or whatever. But that doesn't work the same way in aircraft. when they exit that door, they ain't coming back. They can't
No,
walk back and grab
there are no takebacks.
yeah, no take backs when you jump out of airplanes.
No.
So as I'm processing that, I hand my static line off, make a right face into the door, extend my, those are his left door. So throw my right leg vigorously out and exit the aircraft. C-17 was a very Cadillac exit. Uh,
Okay.
and all of a sudden I'm counting to 4. And I'm like, oh, sweet. It's over. Like the hard part's done. The hard, actually throwing yourself out of a moving aircraft, that's the hard part. The rest of it kind of takes care of itself.
Did you ever get a chance to jump out of any rotary wing aircraft?
Unfortunately, not. Got back from Afghanistan and new commanding general of Alaska. And I don't know if it was funding or resources or wild hairs at people's asses, but no more jumps that don't count towards jump master. You need so many jumps to be able to go to jump master school. We were short on jump masters. So they wanted to prioritize jumps out of high performance aircraft. Any rotary is a low performance. Sherpa is low performance. So it had to be C-130 or C-17 jumps to count for jump master, and they wanted to prioritize those. So I never got the chance to jump out of a Sherpa. They did tons of those. I do have Canadian jump wings, though.
Interesting.
All that means is there's Canadian jump master, and to be honest, it doesn't even really mean anything because he didn't do much. But that's beside the point. But yeah, Alaska was cool, but the stupid rules made it less cool.
Okay. Well, I have one. I'll share one quick jump story with you. We were jumping out of a CH-46, and in the back you've got the ramp and the top clamshell. So the clamshell folds up and in though. And I was in the next string to go, and I'm watching the string ahead of me. And one of the first guy out, he's shuffling off the back of the ramp, and he's wearing a helmet, so he can't see. He hits the clamshell right on his forehead, falls down right on his ass, and then tumbles forward out of the CH-46. We're all like, "Whoa, what just happened?" Oh, luckily,
I
nothing came of it. But from our end, it was like, "Whoa, what the hell just happened?"
exactly. I did do a tailgate C-130 jump, which was hell of a lot of fun. Uh, it's definitely not something you want for your first jump, though. Just stepping out into oblivion. There's no, it, it's great, but if you don't know what you're doing, it can make you do what your buddy did there. Yeah, yeah. Tailgate jumps are amazing if you're confident that you can execute.
Well, the nice thing was nobody else did the same thing.
Yeah.
Once we saw what
People,
he did, everybody was crouching.
I'm 5'8" on a good day. 5'7 3/4 on a bad day. And people give me shit for being short. I'm not super short, but I'm not tall. That's for damn sure. So like Nils, great guy, love that guy. I give him shit whenever I can about his tall, lanky ass. But tell you what, aircraft like that, Sherpas, all that, 5'8" with a helmet and boots on is like the upper limit for height to not have to duck.
Yeah.
So it has its benefits.
Absolutely. All right. So to finish up the Army stuff, 10 years is a long time to spend in the Army. I mean, you're halfway to retirement. Why'd you get out?
Because I'm halfway.
Because you're not there?
I'm halfway. I realized I had to do all of it over again.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
10 years is the decision point.
It is.
If you go past 10 years, and then get out, you're dumb. You're just, you're no, okay. That's putting too. There's plenty of reasons to get out at 12 or whatever. Your life, live it, go for it. But for me, and there's a lot of other reasons in the background here, but 10 years, 1 month, 19 days. I'd had 3 knee surgeries by that point. I'd had a throat surgery. I'd seen 3 tours. I almost went to Africa for Ebola, and I'm glad I didn't because every single person that went there just hated life, left and right. I was done. I was tired. Keep in mind, by the time I was 23, I'd been in 6 years. I was a staff sergeant. and I had been deployed for over 10% of my life.
Okay.
1 in 10 of my days on this planet. I want to say it was like, what's Joel? I can do math here. Let's see. I was 23 and I'd been deployed for 3 solid years. So 23 divided by 3. Nope. 3 divided by 23. 13%. 13% of my life had been spent overseas. That's a lot. That's a lot for anybody. And I don't know. I was, especially without, if there had been ongoing conflict where where I'd had the chance to do some cool stuff, doing my job, maybe I would have stayed in. But especially my last tour, the running joke was I went to war and a garrison broke out. We had guys getting lit up for not being in complete uniform when they were running to
Oh my
to
God.
their artillery pieces to shoot back at the bastards who were trying to kill us. Like, there's photographic evidence of you not being in complete uniform. Yeah, we were manning the guns to shoot back to do our job. Well, you weren't in full uniform, so you didn't have your full PPE on, so that's a counseling statement. The story I gave earlier about me running into the operations center to compute fire missions, shirtless. As I'm working, I get a tap on the shoulder. Hey, Sergeant Vlieger, put a shirt on. Like, in a minute. Give me a minute, please. And I saw that taking over. I started my service with people telling stories about calling fire missions while wearing flip flops and bath towels, and that spoke to me. That's like, yes, no matter what, we're going to get the job done. The mission comes first, and I saw that drifting away. That's part of it. But no, I was tired. I'm glad I got out when I did.
Yeah, that probably started in the mid 90s, early to mid
Yeah,
90s.
everyone looks at the previous generation and says, "Oh man, like, we had it better. We worked harder." Nobody ever looks at the next generation and says, "Man, these guys work hard. They're smarter. They do all this stuff." And I don't know. I just see the rose-colored glasses analogy a lot. It's fine. It was gonna happen. You spend uh, over 10 years at war. It's gonna happen. People are gonna find things to bitch about. But no, I did 10 years, and I'm happy I got out when I did. I'm proud of the service that I performed. I wouldn't trade the experience for anything, but you couldn't pay me enough to do it again.
Okay. Now, once you got out, how long did it take you to find the USPSA game again? And I know you said I wrote it down about 2015, 2016, which is about the time you got out. So the day you got, so by holding up the zero
Before
sign,
before I got
okay.
out,
All right. So
uh,
tell me how you got that serious into USPSA before you got out.
I got back from Afghanistan in late 12, October 2012. Got a dog, hung out with my wife, and started reloading ammo. I decided while I was deployed, I'm going to buy a kit. I'm going to learn how to make my own ammo, and I'm off to the races. And keep in mind, I started competing in 2011 ish, not to win, but to be more confident and competent with my carry gun. I carried a gun for self defense, self protection, and I wanted to make sure that I knew what the hell I was doing. So going to a match, paying $20 and shooting 150 rounds is really cheap practice. That's and you're grading yourself. It's a graded event. You're graded against other people. It's on a curve. So in my mind, as long as I'm not last, I'm top, I'm mid third, mid chunk, like of people. I that's my training for this month. I've gone out and I've tested myself. And then I went on deployment, came back from Afghanistan. I was in Alaska all of a sudden. And Alaska, for those of you who don't know, is very, very boring in the winter unless you do winter activities. If you're not into snowmobiling or snowshoeing or you name your snow-based activity, ice-based activity, it sucks to be in Alaska in the winter. It really does. And I'm not much of a guy for those kind of activities. So I was shooting at the indoor range every other weekend. Twice a month, they'd have either IDPA or USPSA, alternating schedule, 30 minutes, 45 minutes north of me. And I was reloading ammo. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go up here and start shooting. And got to know the guys, had a great time, and ended up leaving Alaska in mid 14. Got to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, Tennessee area, and went from C class to B class very quickly. And then I shot my first real major match. I shot the Florida Open in 2015 with a good friend of mine, Ken Rose. We went down there together and shot the match. I did really well. And I come back and I tell my wife, I said, honey, this is really stinking fun. And I'm not terrible at it. I I want to do this as much as possible. Like, I want to see where this ends. I want to see what because I was pretty good with minimal training, minimal attention, not much dry fire, just shooting. I'm going to go out and shoot. And I had some natural ability. And I told her, and she gave me the pat, pat, pat. Oh, honey, it's nice to have goals. Because I told her I wanted to make master by the end of the year. That was a B class. I made A class very quickly, and she gave me, pat, pat, pat. I made master that year. I traded for an open gun, and then got out in mid 16. And I basically used my savings and the time, terminal leave to I shot 22 major events in 2016.
Just major matches.
Just major matches. Now, that counts falling steel and 3-gun. But I want to say it was like 18 USPSA majors.
Wow.
And the rest was whatever. Or, I'm fudging the numbers a little bit, but I know the number was 22. I'm confident on that. Part of that is my location. I was in the border of Kentucky and Tennessee. So I was driving to the vast majority. I was drive to Florida, drive to Pennsylvania, drive to Arkansas. If it was less than 12 hours drive, 12 hours or less, I would drive to it. And I put a lot of miles on my car doing it, slept in my car a lot, and I loved it. I wouldn't do it again, but I loved it. And I won my first major in May of 2016, the Cowtown Classic down in Texas. And people were very confused at why the stats said an A-class open shooter won open. And my classification lagged behind a little bit on my skills around that time period because of how much effort I was putting into it. And I was really into powerlifting at the time, really into physical fitness. And I think that was the biggest driving factor as I was learning how to shoot. But long story short, I found something I'm good at. I found something that I enjoy doing. It gives me purpose. It gives me a reason to wake up in the morning to try to win. And it is one of the greatest sports available to people that when you win, it's your fault. When you lose, it's your fault. You are in control of success. You are in control of defeat. You have individual control over every aspect of of the determining factors for victory or defeat. It's your ammo. It's your firearm. It's your hands. It's your physical ability. It's your understanding of the stage. It's your mental mindset. It's all of it. That's why I did wrestling in high school. I did wrestling for 2 semesters, 2 years in high school. And it's because it's not that I hate team sports. It's that team sports don't speak to me. If I win or lose, I kind of want to, if I look in the mirror, I get to find the reason. Call it being selfish if you want. That's probably applicable, but it's a test of yourself. And I realized that it's what I chose to try and do. And in 2016 timeframe, I sat down with my dad and I said, I want to do this. I want to see where this ends. I want at one point, I want there to be my name next to an entry somewhere in some book that, at a national championship or a world championship, at one point, John Vlieger was the best at this thing. He won. He was the best. And like I said, call it selfish if you want, but that's why I'm here. It's I want to win. I'm not wanting to win at the expense of other people. I'm not wanting to win in spite of other people. I'm wanting to push myself to be good enough. I'm wanting to push my own comprehension, my own physical ability, my own mental processing to be better than everybody else's XYZ of what I just mentioned. You know, it's pretty pure in that regard. It's a self test, and I think that's a big reason why I started with it, and why I've stuck with it is I'm good at it. You know, it's you introduce a kid to chess when they're 8, and they find out that they're a natural prodigy. Of course, you're going to push them to do it, and maybe they. Well, me personally, like my mindset, what's the word? I get satisfaction from being good at something. Everybody does. Like, who
Yeah.
doesn't like being good at something they want to do? No one likes sucking at something. No one enjoys, you know, being poorly, doing poorly at an event or something like that. You know, people like doing well. So like, if you have that and you find you're doing well at something, you know, being able to pursue it is a blessing. It's where I find myself doing it.
Okay. Gotta go back for a second because
Yeah.
for the most part I agree with you. But let's for the sake of this conversation go back to IPSC Nationals
Mhm.
and the weather. Do you think someone shooting on Thursday or Friday had the same conditions
No,
as the individuals? So could that be one of those situations where it's not 100% in your control?
100%. It's not in your control.
Okay.
I never claim that I control the weather for sure. And
No, I know that.
you know, yeah, there was a. I could pull a few examples out of my hat, but there was a match at South River Gun Club just south of Atlanta years ago. Maybe it was Area 6 or Georgia State, and it poured rain. Like you're shooting in inches of water. Like the runoff was not what it was supposed to be. It's horrible. It was horrible. I did not
Right.
win that. You know, it happens. It is a thing. However, I would like to attack something here, or address something here. So, and I heard uh, one person mention it at least. So, IPSC Nationals. I would like to talk about what happened there. So, I arrived Wednesday, and for those of you who don't know, Thursday was absolutely horrible. Morning was okay, you know, drizzling. The afternoon was it was the worst conditions I've ever seen that did not result in a stop shooting command.
Wow.
I had seen worse, but those worst conditions had ceased the activity for the time period that it was going on. Uh, and I was working a booth. We were there to set up a booth for Mark 7 Reloading, and run that booth the whole weekend. So timeline. I registered for IPSC Nats in March. I signed up for Saturday, Sunday. Middle of the year, I noticed everyone I was shooting with had bailed, so I'm like, okay, I have no reason to stay on this schedule. Hey, let's just shoot all day Thursday, get it done, get it over with, and then run the booth for the rest of the weekend. We're driving to Orlando, and we see the weather forecast being absolute dogs and ponies dropping from the sky. And I text the match directors and I say, hey, can I is there any provision for me to change? Like I don't want to shoot in this. Who doesn't? You know, who doesn't want to do
Right.
that? And hey, can I change the Friday? You know, like just to not shoot in the piss and rain tomorrow. And he said, hey, sorry, the only slots available on Friday are for ROs who are ROing people on Thursday. I am a CRO. I maintain my credentials. I work matches where I can. I've worked many, major matches. I was a CRO in 18 at the JP PCC Championship, where I won my JP rifle. Here and there, where I can help without it conflicting with my desire to win the match. You know, if I want to shoot with those guys, I help out where I can. Basically, is what I'm saying. Uh, and I think it's important that everybody does that. It's a very volunteer sport. But he said, yeah. I said, hey, I'm a CRO. How about I run shooters all day Thursday and I get to shoot Friday? So I made a drug deal, which anybody who's a CRO would be more than welcome to make the same drug deal. At no point was it I'm a GM or I'm important or special or anything like that. It's, hey, I will trade you my physical labor for a swap of days. And I did. Bob Young, I worked with him the entire day, Thursday, in the pouring rain. I have photographic evidence of this as well as video. of me being in
It's
Crocs.
doctored.
Yeah, maybe me being in Crocs running the tablet uh, on Thursday. I got in the shower that night, and I thought to myself, as the water is running, I thought to myself, "This is the driest I've been all day." It was horrible.
Wow.
It was disgusting, and and then come Friday or Thursday, Friday, whatever, I get told, "Hey, someone dropped off this squad with your half your super squad peeps. You want to swap to that?" And I'm like, I just suffered through Thursday, and now you tell me I didn't have to do that. Okay, whatever. But I swapped. So I guess what I'm getting at is for anybody who wants favoritism, who wants to get squatted differently when the weather is shitty, be an RO, be a CRO, and offer to work, and that could be
There you
yours as
go.
well.
And there's the answer right there. So
Yeah.
what schedule did you shoot last weekend?
Saturday PM, Sunday AM.
Okay, that's probably the best one you could do.
Yeah, yeah. I think it rained a heartbeat, but not much. If it did, I could be misremembering.
Right.
We did have stages that were still underwater. Of course, you're still shooting in the muck. Regardless, and everybody shot in the muck. I want to be clear about that. Like on those
Yeah.
stages, everybody. But no, I did not shoot in the active rain. If I did at all, it was not anywhere near the extent that people on Thursday and the first half of Friday did.
Now, have you shot anything other than USPSA and three gun? And I'll still challenge as part of USPSA. So
Pro am
okay,
when it occurs. 21 and a few before that. Uh, Man, you want to talk about management and stuff being weird? That's a great example. Oof. Like it's changed owners, I think, twice in the past 5 years, 6 years. Uh, I think USPSA was talking about buying it at one point, and it just fell to the wayside. For those of you who don't know, Pro Am is a falling steel event. It's par time, 10-round magazines, and shoot as many steel as you can within the par time. And that's your score. It's a great event, easy to set up, easy to play. As pro is playing for money. You win a stage, you get X dollars. You win the match, you get a lot more dollars. And then on the AM, it's random draw prize table, I think is how they used to run it. But held in Florida a lot. I think Extreme GM owns the rights to it currently. I don't know if they've held a match recently or not. I haven't been paying attention. But yeah, Pro Am still challenge USPSA 3 gun. No, I've never played in NRL 22 or PRS at all. Like I said, I'm not a rifle shooter. I have a CZ 457, the PRS style 22. Love that gun for screwing around on my property and squirrel hunting. But otherwise, no. I had to decide a long time ago to give up 3 gun because I realized I can be either really, really good with pistol in this application, and devote my resources, my time, energy, money, ammo to this, or I can dilute those resources across 3 platforms. And especially with 3 gun having a higher cost to entry, higher cost to participate, higher cost to travel to, because you have to check 3 firearms, not just one or two, uh, and et cetera, et cetera. I gave that up a long time ago, and it's cool. I love watching the 3 gunners, but when it comes to someone with my mindset of wanting to win, that's the goal going into it. Uh, would I? Could I do it? Of course. May I do it at some point in the future? Sure. I'm not opposed to it. I'm not anti. It's a shooting sport. Hey, I'll think about it. But no, I'm pretty focused on USPSA like activities because of my investment interests and skill set.
now you mentioned pro am and pros winning money. Did you consider the Prairie Fire rank competition?
I make my schedule in like January, December of the previous year. And
Mm.
by the time the Prairie Fire rank stuff had come about, I'd already had commitments made. Uh, could I be talked into it? Probably. But with it being that far out west and not really being my style, it's not something that I'm jumping for joy to go try. But I could be wrong. I should probably look into what it actually. I remember being told what it entails, and so keep in mind one of the benefits of someone like me doing something like USPSA is that it's got an established rule set. It's a known quantity. I know what I'm walking into. Whenever you have a new organization, I'm not low strung. I'm closer to high strung than not. So, to walk. Answer this question by telling a story. I shot the Mission 22 3-gun match many years ago, many moons ago, 16, 17 time frame, and they had a stage gun. So you say stage gun to somebody who doesn't know, like, oh yeah, it's a prop gun. You get to shoot this gun on the. That sounds great. That sounds amazing. I get to shoot something new, something different, but it was on the clock. So now you're testing me on something that I'm not familiar with, that is not even my ammo, my gun, my scope, my zero. And you're having it be a part of my score. And Mission 22 does some amazing things. My favorite trophy to this day is that trophy from that match because it's a blasted piece of steel with the Mission 22 logo exploded into it. Okay, I'll have to find it and show you maybe while we're on the podcast. But anyway, it was this beautiful 308 with a decent scope on it, shooting at a AC zone target at I think 250 to 300. And they say, yeah, you're going to start off, run, grab the rifle, chamber the round, and shoot this target. You have 2 rounds to do it. Okay. Well, first of all, it was Greek surplus. So it was light strikes for half the shooters. They had to get reshoots. Okay, that's whatever. Hey, I get it. It's sponsored ammo. You roll with it. My problem is that I asked, is it zeroed? Like, what's the zero? What's the hold? And they say, oh, we zeroed it this morning. Hold high.
What does that mean?
Bingo. Thank you for answering my question.
You're welcome.
I'm not trying to throw shade. I'm probably misreporting some of these facts here, but that's my recollection of it. Is it zeroed this morning? Hold high, and I missed both shots. My fault, almost definitely. I have no problem taking that L, from 6 years ago. And then it turned into what's my recourse? Like, hey, I don't think this was right. And then it turns into blah blah blah. Are you calling me a liar? And we all know how those conversations go after you hit that point. It's no one wins. So to answer your question, I like USPSA and IPSC because of the rule book. I like it because I know what I'm walking into. I don't have to know anybody there. I don't have to know who runs the place. I just have to know the rule book. I just have to know what I'm expecting and operate within it, and not be a dick. If I follow those things, if I take those few things into account, I'm probably going to have a good time with my time, money, and energy that I've spent to attend it. Because I spent a lot of money on this. And that's not to say I'm entitled to anything. That's to say that I have expenses with this. So if I'm going to travel to out west, especially, I need to know that what I'm attending is worth the time. If I drive, I'm gonna shoot that local match, that night match tomorrow. If it turns into it, can I cuss on the podcast?
Yeah.
Okay. If it turns into a shit show tomorrow, I'm an hour from home. I've spent $25. Under $50 in all expense. It's not that big of a deal. If I go out west somewhere and it turns into a shit show, I'm out, up to $2,000.
Right.
That's more than $50. So
right.
That comes it comes into play for someone who shoots as much as I do. I like knowing that. People like Nils, they first of all, he's right next to one of the greatest 3-gun ranges in America. But he's been in 3-gun for a long time. He knows that metric. That's what he does for a living. It's great. I'm not throwing shade at Prairie Fire rank or 3-gun in any way, shape, or form. Any of it. It's just with the math I have in front of me and the fact I have to make my schedule with these goals, and usually those goals are regarding USPSA Nationals and about World Shoot. I only have so much of me and my bank account to spread around for things that are a known quantity.
I only bring it up because they were shooting for money. Tim Yackley won $50K, Nils won $20K, Joe Farewell won $10, I believe.
Yeah, and if I hadn't already been scheduled. I mean, that probably would have convinced me. I went off on this wonderful tangent just now before letting you finish what we're talking about there. Uh, and yeah, it's I don't know. I Would I like to win money in this? Of course, who wouldn't? But I don't know. It's I know for a fact that the scheduling for that was not conducive to something I had going on at the time.
Well,
In
it
particular.
came out later. I mean, they didn't announce until a few months prior, like 2 to 3 months prior. So there wasn't a whole lot of time. So I totally get not being able to work it into your schedule,
Mm.
especially us being closer to the East Coast, and it was in Texas, and now if they do it again, it'll be in Nevada. So even further away. All right.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to something else, John.
Yeah.
You said your first major match, you were, um, not bodybuilding, powerlifting.
Mm. Yep.
So did you or have you? So we're kind of switching into training talk now. Have you done any specific workouts for practical shooting, whether it be explosive movements or agility, anything like that, to help you physically on the stage?
No, but that's mainly because I'm a lazy ass these days. I'm trying to change that. I have plans to change that this next year. Uh, Last year, the photo you have above my head right now, by the way, is great because that's the lightest weight I've been in like 10 years. Going into being at World Shoot last year, um, I was at like a buck 85, buck 80 going into that match, and felt really good. I'm glad I did. I'm about 10 pounds heavier than that now. But I like to say that powerlifting gave me the initial edge. Uh, it gave me an advantage in physicality when I did not yet have the discipline and focus and control uh, to take advantage of to be good. I guess like I was really good physically and like upper A class, maybe low master physicality wise, and that allowed me to hit above my pay grade because I had an advantage in one area. I was very explosive. I could hit positions, stop real fast, and start shooting. I was just explosive as hell. And that has since evened out in the advantage where I've gained more control, I've gained more discipline, I've gained more accuracy, and I'm less I am less set back. I have average physicality now, but above average shooting of the rest of it. So it evens out. Or now, if I were to able to get back to that level of physicality, I'm sure it would help my scores. Would it help me an appreciable amount? Who knows? Let's find out. But no, I do not do anything specific. What's funny is, so I'll let you be the first to know. I tallied up my round count for this year. I actually kept track, and I'll post pictures of my stupid 3x5 card tracker whenever I got done training. I have my own range, but I'm limited by work travel. I travel for my job for Mark 7. So during the week, about half the time I'll be gone during at least part of the week during the year. But I kept track, and I have fired on my tracker. This is around plus or minus 500 rounds, plus or minus 1,000, we'll even say,
Okay.
on this. But I have fired since March 16th to end of IPSC Nationals. I have fired 31,225 rounds of live ammunition. Uh,
So about 7.5 months.
yeah, and the average of that is
Okay.
123 rounds a day. So it's like shooting a local match's worth of ammunition every
Every
single
day.
day for 7 months, 7 months and change. Uh, And it was my first year that I kept track and shot this much. I know for a fact I've never shot this many rounds in a year. My usual average is 15 to 20, maybe. But first of all, it's hard to shoot that much. I just want to let you know that. But no, I have a wrist injury. I've had 2 wrist surgeries, and I get bored, so I only shoot 2 to 250 rounds per session. Some days I'll do 2 in a day, but I don't do Never do more than 500. Never do I do more than 500 rounds in a day, ever, ever, ever. Usually it's 2 to 250, and so I'm shooting 5 times a week. What I'm getting at is if you are shooting in a way that replicates your average USPSA experience, you are going to get the exercise that directly applies to USPSA shooting. If you are setting up drills and practice sessions that have you doing a lot of lateral movements, you're going to get better at doing lateral movements because exercise is just doing something so that you'll be better at doing that thing later. It'll be easier to do that thing. So if you're doing that thing a lot, you're going to build up those muscles. I'm being totally non-scientific here. I am not a kinesiologist or personal trainer of any sort. You're going to be better at those things, at least strictly because your body is more used to doing those things. If you're practicing getting into low ports, if you're practicing drawing and running 5 yards straight ahead, you're practicing these physical. You're at minimum, you're going to be training your legs and your lower core. So you're not your lower core. Sorry, your core and your lower body to respond better for those demands on a stage. And I see that benefit most when it comes to entering positions and exiting positions. I won some stages at IPSC Nats, and I looked back in the video. I'm like, how did I win those? Like, my hits were the same. Where did the time come from? Where did I gain? Where was the flawless execution relative to my peers that I was able to win this stage? Yeah, it's marginal. It's a few percent. But it's notable. Like, why? Why did this happen? And I'm watching this like, oh, yeah, I was ready to shoot as soon as my foot stopped moving. I entered in a stable position. I entered this position, the gun's up, pulling the trigger as soon as the gun clears that barricade, whatever the case may be. So to answer your question, if you're doing the motions, you're physically training yourself. It's the point of physical training. You are training your body physically to do this thing that you think you're going to have to do later. And so, yeah, one of the best ways to train for the sport is to train for the sport.
Yes. I think there are some extra things people can do, especially if they don't have a background in athletics or something. You know what I mean? So, in addition,
to sum up, what I'm saying is, if you're lazy, but physically, but you're doing this thing a lot, you're probably going to be at least okay doing the thing.
Yeah, agree. Now, that's a lot that for you too. 123 rounds a day, the most rounds you've ever shot in a 7.5 month period. At this point, are you like, all right, I'm going to take a month, 2 months, I'll wait till after the holidays and get back into it? Are you taking an off season?
I program an off season in every year.
Okay.
Financially, emotionally, and psychologically, I can't keep this up. It's not even just first of all, the weather. We're getting down below freezing every day here in northern Kentucky. I absolutely despise shooting in the cold. Once it gets down below like 40, yeah, that's why I'm shooting rifle this weekend. I'm not shooting pistol because I can wear gloves with rifle. But I can't stand it. I feel like I'm slower on everything. If it's north of 40 degrees, 45 degrees, we could talk about it. But below those numbers, no, thank you. I'm not interested. I don't feel I'm competitive. I don't have a good time. So, secondly, I discovered something after World Shoot last year. I trained the hardest for World Shoot, not round count wise, but investment wise, just all told. I dieted. I was so focused on it. Keep in mind, it was 5 years in the making. I told my dad, like I told you earlier, in 2016, I wanted to see where I end up. And then freaking 6 years after that, I was finally able to test it and finally able to see, oh, hey, how good am I actually? Does this work out? So because COVID pushed the World Shoot from 2020 to 21 and then 22. So I qualified in 18 and 19 was supposed to shoot in 20, and that didn't happen. So I was getting strung along. But what I'm getting at is after World Shoot last year, I basically had postpartum depression.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
not even, yeah, I was depressed. I was messed up after World Shoot. I had the best time I could describe in Thailand and at World Shoot. I achieved a goal. I took top 10. I placed 10th in Open, at over 90%, 93%, I think, of Christian Seiler. And I did exactly what I wanted to do. Yes, would I take some tough back and change them? Sure, of course. Who wouldn't? I drink more caffeine. That's for damn sure. The jet lag killed me. But coming off of that, coming home and coming back to the grind. Hey, this thing you've been working for 5 years, it's over now. What do you do next?
Right.
And it screwed me up. And so I'm getting at is having an off season can be dangerous for me, but I have to program one in because I can't take it. The cold, the scheduling. Like, oh yeah, you can shoot in Florida. We have majors all the time. Yeah, screw you. I'm not flying to Florida to get my fix. Uh, the it's all told. So no, I program an off season for myself. Usually, and that's what pissed me off about IPSC Nationals this year was the scheduling. It's like mid-November, like bro, that's right before Thanksgiving. I'm trying to be fat and lazy. I'm not trying to be prepped for a national championship. Like my season is usually off season is usually mid-October to mid-February. 4 months. I take 4 months off, and that allows me the flexibility to change guns or to get guns worked on, to get guns built, to change parts out and then test them, to screw around, to play video games, to do whatever I want. The season never ends in Florida. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's other things that are wrong in Florida too, but we're not going to go into detail. Uh, it's everyone needs a break, and my wife would kill me if I didn't take a break from this stuff. We're human too. So no. And besides, we call it a sport. It's a game. It's what I do is tailored towards what I want to do and towards my goals, namely World Shoot and Nationals. So like great example, Area 8 fills up every year. You can make arguments that it fills up because of the amazing match directors, because of the stages that are always are great and challenging and consistent. But it's also usually the last area championship before nationals, or at least one of the nationals, open nationals usually in particular. So if you look back at Area 8 participation, you'll notice that of the people on the open super squad, there's usually at least like 6 of them that shoot Area 8 because Area 8 is usually scheduled 1 to 2 weeks. I'm not saying that they're doing this on purpose. I'm just saying this is the way the calendar falls. What I'm saying is like this is the last area match before national championship. So if you're trying to test yourself on how good you're going to do or against your peers, like this is a great example. That's the way I see it. This isn't like we don't have some super squad, group chat going on here. This is just the way it falls that happens. So I tailor my schedule to shoot Area 8. I've shot Area 8 every single year since, I don't know, 16 or 17, something like that. I haven't missed it. And there are matches that, like, I haven't shot Illinois State since 2017 because it falls on the same weekend as Area 8 every single year. And I'm going to prioritize Area 8. So I'm not saying that other people make these decisions because of this. I'm just saying that if you look at the calendar and you're making the calendar similar to myself, where you're planning out your year with your budget, with your willingness to travel, and with the Nationals calendar being in primary focus. Okay, off the top of my head, June is Carioptics Nationals again. April
Yep.
is IPSC Nationals. So IPSC Nationals, I'm shooting open. So up until April, I'm shooting open. After April, I'm shooting Carioptics. So I'm going to try to find a area or sectional in March, or sorry, not March, May. In May, at minimum, to shoot in Carioptics. Go ahead.
Area 1.
Area 1. Okay, I'll have to look into
Yep.
that. Uh, uh, I'm going to shoot that and carry out in the division I'm about to shoot. So up till April, open.
Okay.
Up till June, carry optics. Up till September, open again. And then I have flexibility after that in October, going into October. Do I want to shoot single stack again, or I'm considering shooting limited optics in that, just because that's where the heat's at. At the same time, I really want a single stack title, and it pissed rain the last day at single stack nationals, and it was cold, and I think that's part of the reason I did poorly, and I want revenge. Elias is a great guy, but I'm this close to taking care of it in the parking lot. Love that guy to death, but Jesus, man.
All right, so I've got to correct myself. So yes, Carry Optics Nationals again, end of June in Ohio, but you also have at the beginning of June, 3 weeks earlier, you do have Area 8.
Area 8's in June this year?
It is 3 weeks before Carry Optics Nationals. Yeah, I didn't even think to look. Yeah, June 6th in Bulger, Pennsylvania.
Hold on. Where the hell
And
is
Area 1 is May 16th.
the Bulger pencil? I'll have to look into this. Thanks for reminding me. Me and the wife always sit down and look at calendars in December for the next year. Oh yeah, that's right. Greater Pittsburgh Gun Club. That's Bill Drummond's range. I was just out that way in July. It's a great range. It's gonna be great. I knew about this. I just forgot.
An inside hookup has been leaking me videos of some of the stuff they have going on that they're prepping.
I saw it at the Western Pennsylvania sectional, sliders and stuff like that. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Bill Drummond and I talked about it at IPSC Nationals last weekend. I'm looking forward to it. I really am. Bill is a damn resource, okay, and he and I see eye to eye on a lot of things regarding equity and shooting challenges. You know, I am not a fan of the Holy Monkey target. I have been very vocal about my dislike for the Holy Monkey target. Okay. Quick summary. I don't think it's as equitable as people think it is with regards to it being consistent from over day-to-day shooters. I don't think it is, I'm not going to say fair. I think it is harsh on people who are first to see it or first to shoot the stage. It doesn't act like we normally see activated targets move. And my most important point is that with a regular swinger, if I have to go, let's assume that it's a fast swinger and it's one per pass. Okay.
Okay.
Pass, pass, pass. And I shoot 1, 2, 3 because I'm unconfident. I just paid the price for my lack of confidence and skill with about a second, we'll say. I paid for that with a second. Holy monkey. First exposure, can't trust it. Second exposure, it wiggles. Pop, pop. I'm not confident in that. So either I take the mic or I wait like 3 more damn seconds. The penalty for unconfidence is much greater than your average activated target on a Holy Monkey, and I would very much like to see it removed from anything above a level 2.
Okay. Now I'm gonna play devil's advocate with you.
The fact that World Shoot had one has me very, very surprised.
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate because I look at nationals as really it's a match for the super squads. Everybody else gets to shoot and compare themselves to the top in the nation as it pertains to practical shooting. Okay?
Okay.
That's how I look at it. So I'm not advocating for anything ridiculous, but I would like to see stages that, again, not like handgun nationals. Okay. Everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say not like handgun nationals, but some challenges thrown in. And I think when we're talking, and I'm going to say you guys on the super squad, you people,
that's what you're saying.
You know what I'm talking about, you people. I think there should be challenges that allow for some separation there and really test your skills. And I think one of those things. But I get that if it's not consistent enough, then it wouldn't be fair to somebody. But I don't think confidence with shooting ability, and maybe I'm wrong here, is a thing for the most part on a super squad because you have the skills. Now it's, am I going to get my timing right? How am I going to do this? How am I going to, you know what I mean? That's how I feel. That's where you guys are.
Well, that brings up another point I like to make real quick. And I agree with you. I call those passing lanes personally.
Mm,
Uh, when you have a
okay.
passing lane
Yeah.
available, it's, hey, do I want to take the risky approach to gain some points? And the passing lanes come into play more the last day than any other day.
Yes.
Because if I'm behind by X point, a small amount of points, I might take that passing lane. That's the point. But World Shoot, and this is non-Holy Monkey related, but World Shoot, my last day had a stage where it was basically impossible to know the timing
Ooh.
for a stage. It had a bobber that was a very very narrow slit. You were going to see the bobber. You had to go to this position to shoot
Mm.
a static and a bobber, and you had to shift your feet. So you're retreating, coming back, and I can pull up the video, but it doesn't matter. Long story short, the bobber had a very big delay of non-availability. So
Oh,
if you missed your window, I'm going to come in,
right.
I'm going to go static, and then bobber. Bobber's not there. You're hosed. That's not skill based, in my opinion,
That's not. I agree.
because you activated it like 6 seconds before. You activated it way away from this. And to be honest, the more you separate an activated target from the activator, the more I feel this way. But like you said, this is supposed to be a shooting challenge, supposed to be a test of skill, not roll of the dice. The more we get away
Right.
from actual equity of, yes, it's equitable in that everyone was offered the same stage, same challenge. But hey man, you got hosed. I guess you're not winning the freaking championship. Har har har. We'll have, that doesn't, screw that. What? No. That's not what I signed up for. I don't want that. I don't want to win off of that either. I mean, everyone knows that that's half bullshit. You're gonna take the win whether you think you earned it or not. But you know what I'm getting at. You're
Yeah.
the more you separate stuff like that. Yes, you can have passing lanes without hosing people if they screw up the timing, or to have the separation be, I'm going to activate this target 30 yards on the left. I'm going to activate it, and then I'm going to shoot some stuff in the middle, and then go over here, and it's got a 2 second non-availability, and then whatever. Well, I just won the stage by a second and a half, 2 seconds, because it wasn't there for you. That doesn't speak to me as being equitable. That doesn't speak to me as
No,
being
that's not.
in,
I
in,
agree
in,
with
the,
that.
in the nature. Yeah. So
So
it's
did
a
you?
spectrum. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a
Okay.
spectrum. It's not a yes or no. It's a spectrum. The closer you get to one end, the more I'm like, come on, man, like, really. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
point I'm trying to make. The holy monkey comes into play with it. Go on. Go
Okay.
go ahead.
2020. Did you shoot the factory nationals by chance? It was Carry Optics and production
Yeah, I think I did.
and Frostproof
2020 crossproof. Yes, I took 10th. I think, if I remember correctly.
in Carry Optics or production.
Yeah, I remember. I
Yes.
was. I remember that match because I got hosed by an activator. I remember that.
Okay. I'm gonna pull it up.
I'm
Yes,
pulling
you
up
were
too.
10th in Carry Optics. I bring that up because there was a stage, John, and maybe you'll remember. There were two pieces of steel, one in front and one behind, with a window and a freaking bobber. And
Huh? That's the
I
stage I
was,
got hosed on.
oh, is that the one?
Yeah, I hit
Okay.
the Colt Speed Steel. Oh, we could talk about this if you want. Oh man, I hit the Colt Speed Steel with chronographed 147 grain minor going 900, so it's just fine. Hit the activator. Look at the bobber window. Nothing. Go back to the bobber. Shoot it. And Tom Palmer was the RO on that stage. CRO. I love Tom Palmer. He's local to me. I see him all the damn time. He is a treasure in our sport. I want him to keep ROing because I love the way he does it. He's very matter of factly cut and dry. kind of guy. But he walks up to the popper and goes, "Yeah, it was set kind of heavy." And he adjusts the popper after I shot it down. Under the rules, I'm screwed. I shot it
Yes,
down.
you are.
You know, and that's another discussion we could have, but I'm not getting into it right now. But he adjusts it, and then it's fine. It's calibrated correctly. And I'm like, I have no recourse, do I? No.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to just throw a mag over the berm or something like that, or chuck my ear pro into a dumpster. Like, it's like, you admit that I didn't have the same target everybody else had. I
Yep.
got screwed, and there's no way that we can walk this back. There's no way within the rules for
Nope.
this to be made right.
Because you shot it down.
I shot it down. I own it.
Yep.
And every time something like this gets brought up, like the story I told about the foot fault earlier,
Football. Yeah.
yeah, in the comments, a lot of the comments were in the vein of, "It's a volunteer sport. You get what you pay for. Blah blah blah. It's not worth crying about. It's not this, that, or the other." And then half the comments are, slightly different than that. And I'm like, which one is it? Which one is it? Do we have a rule book? Do we have a standard? Do we hold people to that standard, or do we not? And I know I'm approaching this kind of cut and dry in that respect, but it's important to people. This is important. You can't tell people who spend this. Actually, no, I'm not going to bring up money into this. You can't tell people who invest this much of themselves into something. That applies to ROs, not just super squad fools like myself. Okay, like, this applies to everybody. We invest so much into this. I'm on a podcast right now talking about practical shooting. You've invested something in this. All right.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to tell me, look me in the eye and tell me, like, deal with it. It's not blah, blah. No, this is something we should change. This is something we should look at, assess, and make a reasonable change to. If we deem that this is an issue, we can change it. We have the power. It's our sport. It's our thing.
And this is
So,
where I think a very simple rule change could come into play. You could keep the other rule in effect with one slight adjustment, and that being stop the shooting. The CRO pull the other ROs aside, take 30 seconds to discuss it, and I bet they would be willing to say, yes, John got hosed. Let's give him a reshoot. Let's adjust the steel. Shoot everybody else. John can shoot at the end. That, to me, is a reasonable outcome for that stage.
you'd have someone argue left or right, and that's fine. I agree with you that something should and probably could be done. I don't want to throw forward, my own suggestions about how, but yeah, it doesn't take a CRO or a range master to look at a situation as described. He shot the steel. It didn't go down. I assessed the steel as set, and it was set pretty heavy. If I had walked up to the steel before he shot, I probably would have adjusted it. And to be able to say, hey, we're going to give you a reshoot. There's evidence greater than what's the civil court? More likely than not, preponderance of evidence. There's preponderance of evidence that you got hosed. So we're going to assess that. There's room to play with that, both in how it's written and it can be abused as well. But that's beside the point. I agree with you, and it's the core of the matter is that until and unless we are assessing things from a reasonable point of view, and then making changes to the rule book once we've made those assessments. And that's one of the hardest parts. I've had a conversation with ROs about this, usually with me being super heated in the moment, like, being aggravated. But like, it's not enough to say we have a problem. There has to be a reasonable solution too. So this isn't working. Well, what's your suggestion? And it's like, well, that doesn't work because of XYZ. That doesn't work because of ABC. It's like, well, shit, maybe what we have isn't that bad. That can happen. And having an open mind to understand that is important as well. Like steel calibration, I'm not going to say details, but I've asked the question recently, how many times was that steel been calibrated or challenged, calibration challenged in this match? And they look at me and they go, like 5 or 7, something like that. I'm like, does that strike you as a high number? Yes, it does. Okay. Where do we go from there? Well, we've adjusted it. We've done this, that. I was like, and shortly after that, I made a post on my personal Facebook about if a steel has a possibility to be shot and then fail, like if it has the capability to be shot twice and then fail, get reset like a forward following, like that is a range equipment failure. That piece of steel should be replaced. Period. You know, and that kind of logic, I think, it should be encouraged. It's been calibrated 5 times. It's been challenged. Someone's gotten hosed, at least in that shooter's perspective, multiple times over a 3-day match. That should say something. That should make people go, maybe this ain't right. Maybe it's weather. Maybe it's Maybelline. I don't know. Don't care. It's something that needs to get assessed. Like it's years ago, there was a big hubbub at Frostproof. Maybe that Nationals we were just talking. No, it was the year before, where I shot some stages and I was resetting the steel on the stage. And I'm like, man, this is set kind of heavy. I tell the RO, and he's like, it's been fine all day. We'll reset it. We'll check it after lunch. And I look at him and go, I'm shooting major, man. I'm shooting 124 grain going 1,400 feet per second. Pretty confident I'm going to knock that sucker down. My friends on the squad behind me shooting carry optics are not shooting major, and I'd hate to see them have a bad day because of your lack of attention. Oh, no, well, it hasn't been a problem. They got screwed. And from that moment forward, it has been my mission from God, whatever you call it, to preach that if you're an RO on a stage, the steel is your responsibility. And that is becoming more mainstream, and I'm happy to hear that. I'm glad to see it. Steel is paper is hard to screw up. You staple it to a stick. Steel is a mechanism. It's an object. It needs to work as intended. It needs to be inspected and assessed and maintained. That is the core I'm coming from. I want to shoot the same stage everybody else shoots. I want to do better at it. I want to beat them at it. That does not mean I want them or myself to get screwed because of it. If we can control it and reasonably assess it and maintain it, I'd love for that to happen, and I'd like to encourage it.
I tend to agree with you on all that stuff, and I feel like we've been talking about JJ's life for the last year and a half or so, with squibs and cracked barrels and steel that won't fall. But I want to get back into. Go ahead.
I I could say some things, but I love the guy to death.
Yeah, it's hard not to like the guy.
Mid 2014, I was shooting the level 1 state championship in Alaska. JJ flew up. He'd teach a class and shoot the match. He won open with a bone stock CZ75 shooting 15 round mags. Like the term big fish, small pond doesn't do it justice. But I'll never forget the man, because this is almost 10 years ago now, by the way, because I'll never forget his words to me. I was shooting limited with a stock Dawson Precision Edge, shooting limited. And like I said, I was really into powerlifting at the time. And he saw me shoot, and he walks up to me, he goes, "Hey, man, are you trying to turn that double stack into a single stack?" Because I've got both forearms. Like I said, I'm benching like close to 400 pounds at the time at 5'8" and $180. Like I'm not healthy in the as you think of it. I'm putting way too much time into pushing iron at the time. Wish I could get back into it that easy. Hey, when you don't abuse your 20s, kids. But I had forearms popping, doing all this. And I'll never forget that. He was great. He was supportive. He was positive. And I saw him a year later when I moved down to lower 48, and he remembered me. And there was just a big swelling. I watched him on Top Shot a little bit, and I saw him and oh yeah, JJ told me some cool words, and I see him a year later and he remembers me, and I'm like, yeah, this is great. And now I get to shoot with him, and it's great. He's a great individual, and it pains me to see what you just described happen.
Yeah.
I don't want to say much more than that. He's a great individual. I hope he gets stuff figured out, because keep in mind for the kids in the group, in 2018, in the 9 days of Nationals, this man This was a 3-day match, followed by a 3-day match, followed by a 3-day match. There were no breaks. This is 9 consecutive days of shooting. He shot all 3 championships. He won Open. He won Limited. And he took second in production. And he won Limited with a borrowed gun.
Wow.
The man is a beast and has worked
Yes, he
harder than I
is.
think probably anybody else out there. And he showed it. Maybe he was on steroids that year. I have no information left or right, but I'm just, what I'm saying. I'm not. I mean, I wouldn't have passed a piss test 10 years ago. I'm just saying. But the guy's a beast, and he works his ass off, and he's extremely motivated, intelligent individual in this sport. He's a national treasure at this point. But come on, man, bring stuff that works better. I guess.
And I'm definitely not throwing
I
heat because I like the guy too much. But
he's a better shooter than I am. I have no problem admitting that.
Yeah,
I aspire to be like JJ, both in appearance and skin tone and shooting ability.
And I don't know how the dude was laughing and jovial after having a squib at Nationals, knowing that you basically, you no longer had a chance to win the match. But he kept at least on the exterior.
Yeah,
he was happy. I'm sure he was hurting.
And this is all supposition. I just want to say that right now. This is not based off any conversation I've had with JJ or facts I have. But if I remember correctly, at the time the squib happened, I think he was roughly equal with me, maybe a little bit further behind. I don't know. I definitely didn't have any aspirations of winning at that point. Or it was unlikely, I'll say. You know what I mean? Like with the way the point spread was going into the third day, you can do math. You know what I mean? Like it's you're 20 points behind, sure. Especially if shit can happen. 40 points behind, yeah, shit can happen. Unlikely. But I think I was way more than that. And it's like, yeah, I'm fighting for top 5 at this point. And I think he was in this similar boat. But yeah, we could probably pull it up pretty quick here.
It was impressive still that he fought his way back into the top 16.
Oh, 100%. I'm gonna pull up where it was a 120 point course that he zeroed because of the squib. Let's do the math real quick.
Right.
Because I think even Open and PCC Nationals, view all. 23, Area 5. Carry National, presented by Federal. It's loading. Let's see. But, yeah, I don't think it was, you know what I mean? I could be very wrong here, but it definitely plays with your head, period. One of the, sponsor share here. One of the reasons why I shoot shell shot cases in Open is because I had a case failure of 9 major way back in the day, and it cost me the match, or it cost me the hope of the match, and it's not pulling up. That sucks. Pull up Hand Dandy Competitor app. But yeah, no, it's there's a lot that goes into it, but he clawed his way back to top 10, and that by itself was impressive. I mean, the like I said, the guy works his ass off, and it shows. But anyway,
while you look for that, I want to get back into the training stuff real quick. Now, if you normally take a break from mid-October, so your off-season runs mid-October to mid-February, what are you doing starting mid-February to get back into the flow of training? What does your training look like at that point?
So I consider. Oh, there it is. Let's see. JJ finished 16th this year in Caryoptics with 1870. Yep. And if he had 120 points back, that would be 1990 points. And he would have taken 4th. He would have beaten me. If he had won that stage, he would have taken 4th. So that's what that was worth. That was 12
Right.
places for him.
Had he
That
won
stage
it.
was
Right.
12 places. Had he won it, which is,
Right.
so basically instead of taking fourth or fifth, he ended up in 16th because of
16th.
it.
Right.
So, but to answer that question, really it's weather dependent. Um, I'll start shooting locals more, or maybe I was talked into beginning of this year. I was down in Florida to visit the home office anyway, and Florida State was going on that same weekend, and I'm like, okay, why not? I'll almost no preparation. Grab my carry optics gun, make sure the ammo made minor. Shot a local match 3 days before the big match where my optic flew off because I suck at Loctiting things. Uh, had Shooter's Connection next day air me a new plate
Oh.
because I stripped it out and then won the match. I'm really proud of that match, actually. If I had been shooting open with my carry optics gun, I would have been fourth or third open at like 94%. It was great. Yeah, I shot really well, and I'm anyway. But no, I usually try to find a major around that time period to lead up to. Or sorry, step one is I form my calendar, and then I'll base my prep schedule off of that. And the running joke I have is, give me 2 weeks and I can learn anything, or not learn any gun. Is what not learn anything. Uh,
Okay.
and people have mentioned, oh, you're competitive with 2011s, 1911s, and carry optics. Like, how do you do it changing platforms? And I say, like, I don't change platforms. A CZ75, a Shadow 2 is pretty close grip angle wise to 1911. So I choose my platforms based on what I'm used to ease the transition. Uh, but I've shot the rounds already. I've done the prep. Anytime people talk about getting prepped in the season, at least for me, it's not about relearning from scratch. It's about knocking the rust off and having
Mm-hmm.
at least a few weeks to put some rounds down range, relearn the gun, retrust the gun, relearn, make sure my equipment works, make sure my equipment is rock solid with reliability. Uh, Especially where that really comes into play is I usually, if I'm going to make changes, I make them in the off season. So if I'm, not ammo as much as belt, pouches, hanger, setup, holster, uh, you name it in that regard, I'll make changes in the off season. I'll buy it in the off season, set it up, and I'm playing with it in dry fire in the off season, and then I'm integrating it as I get into live fire. Uh, but once again, I have my own range. I can go out back, whether it's, and I can chrono out my window next to my press. It's not so much as I use I'm not doing anything in the off season. It's that I'm not putting 100% effort, time, and energy and money into it in the off season.
Gotcha. So, all right. So, we'll go back then, and um, so next year's carry optics, end of June. What does if you're picking up in February, and you're looking to hit a major match like in May, like you were saying, what
April.
are you? Okay, April. What are you doing between April and June to ramp up for nationals? Are you ramping up your live fire or dry
100%.
fire and live fire? Okay.
Yep. Especially with carry. So this year, as a reference, I shot 5K a month in the 2 months leading up to carry optics because it was a very similar schedule as what we're going into next year. Next year is very similar to 2024 is very similar calendar wise to 23. So I'm probably just going
Mm-hmm.
to follow the same thing. Shoot 10. Hey, I'm going to shoot 10K in 2 months.
So about 1,250 rounds a week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So
That's
is
just
that is that? Go ahead.
that's 6 sessions of 250.
Okay. Now, do you do
That's
any dry fire, or is at this point it's all just live fire?
I do almost zero dry fire, and I'm going to admit that's stupid. I have ADHD or some, something. I have trouble with focus. Um, it's easy for me to jump on the ATV and go out back a minute, drive a minute on the ATV, shoot for 45 minutes, and then come home. and I am working that entire time. I am in the zone. I'm shooting. I do a little bit of dry fire when I'm on the range doing that. But that's I'm not gonna say it's easy for me. Like executing it is easy. I mean, it's easy for me to commit to that and make it happen, and it does happen because it interests me. It keeps me engaged. It gets me excited, uh, especially with someone at my level where I know that I could pick up a gun and do decent, at least half decent.
Right.
I'm not learning anymore as much as I'm refining. I'm and
It's a
that I'm
constant
sure.
polishing.
Yeah, I'm sure that someone who I greatly respect, namely probably JJ or Nils or someone that could set me down and tell me how wrong I am with that statement. I'm sure of it. I'm sure I'm wrong by saying that. I'm not claiming to be, the mystical man on the mountain passing out wisdom. Ignore dry fire, only live fire. Throw all of your money at ammunition and you'll win a national championship.
Your troubles will
No,
go
I'm not
away.
saying. Yeah, I'm saying is that I can commit to that. I can afford it currently anyway, and I like it. And my neighbors haven't complained yet, so uh, it's what I do. And this year was the first time I really pushed it really super hard to the 30K limit. Previously, it was a little bit of dry fire and stuff. This was a different year. I was much busier the last few years than prior uh, in my life. But yeah, it's not that I'm advocating for that. It's that's what I did. That's what I'm probably going to mostly continue doing because it didn't hurt me. I've had the best year on record for myself this year, so obviously it wasn't causing problems. I can count.
Right.
I didn't have any malfunctions. That could be attributed to something I was aware of. I put rounds through all my guns to an extent that's I've shot more rounds this year than most five people put together shoot in their lifetime. That's not to brag. That's a fact. That means something. It doesn't mean nothing. Does it mean as much as if I had invested an extra a half hour of dry fire every day along with it? No. But I also know I wouldn't have kept that up.
Okay. Right. You're
The
more
saying,
motivated to do the live fire than the dry fire. I get it.
100%. Yeah. And, people, the discussion comes up, hey, should I buy this new gun? I think it would help me. I think it's better. Well, if you think so, you're right. Sure, go for it. Because at minimum, if you're excited about that new gun, you think it's cool, you think it's neat, you like it, you're going to have it in your hand more. You're going to want to shoot it more. You're going to want
Yep.
to dry fire and train with it more to the point that you are a better shooter with that gun. It's a self fulfilling prophecy. I'm not saying go about buy a new gun. Actually, I am. Go out, buy a new gun, get it from Shooters Connection. uh, that's what I am saying. I am saying that it'll make you a better shooter, 100%. That's what I'm trying to say. No, it's part of it's psychology. But like, I'm not going to go out and buy new guns. I have my competition guns. I'm going to keep shooting them until they break. So I need to find a way to motivate myself because just going out running, doing the same thing and expecting different results is insanity. So, but yeah, dry fire is boring to me. I don't like it.
I get
So
it.
I don't do it.
Okay. You got to do
Maybe,
what motivates you.
maybe that's
So
the wrong answer. I'm sure it's the wrong answer. I have myself to blame.
not, but the answer is different for everybody. So for you, that's what works.
Dry fire is a no cost / low cost, very low cost way to maintain or improve. It is also very boring to me. So, if that gives your listeners a piece of my stupid brain, then so be it. But yeah,
All right. What are your thoughts on the um, standings from IPSC Nationals?
oh, let me pull them up so I know what I'm talking
Any
about.
surprises? Because you've got
Yes,
Brian Jones. Okay.
and
And
I want to say from the bottom of my heart, I couldn't be happier with who won Open. Like
okay.
besides myself, obviously I wanted to win. I wouldn't have been there if I didn't want to win.
Right. Of
But
course.
I've known Brian Jones 5 years, 6 years. I've never seen him frown. He's always positive. He's happy. For those who don't know, George Jones, a long-standing, hardworking RO, is Brian Jones's father. Both of them are doctors. I know Brian's a doctor. He's an eye doctor in California. I can't remember if George is a doctor or not. I'm pretty sure he is. Um,
Okay.
so Dr. Jones, Indiana Jones reference is always welcome. But no, I had a shitty middle of my match, and I had a great start and a great end. So I kind of knew I wasn't going to win, So I was like, I did it myself. But I wanted to see how far I could go. But Mike Huang beating me, like I told him, screw off, I hate you. But he worked his ass off for it. Uh, but Brian Jones winning was great, man. I think it's his first national title in any way, shape, or form. And the amount of people I got comments of or messages like, "Who the hell is Brian Jones?" made me even happier. Like just the guy is the kind of person you want to see win. Just someone who's happy about it, who worked hard, has been working for a long time. Let me surprise you. You want to know what kind of gun he shot?
What?
Caspian.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Caspian. He's the only guy I
Wow.
know running around shooting a Caspian. But yeah,
Throwback.
Brian Jones won. KC Sebio took second. Mike Huang
Yeah.
took third, right behind KC, and myself in fourth. Production, Mason Lane. I feel like he had a shitty uh, production nationals. Like he had a poopy face on when I saw him. So good to see him coming ahead. Maybe he just needed some more BBs, but happy for that. It was. I'm not gonna say it was surprising. The guy works his ass off. He's a L10 champion, as well as I know he's a limited champion multiple times. I can't remember if he's L10 or not. Production optics, Jacob Hetherington at the top with Jay Beal about 4.5% behind, and Nils right behind Jay Beal. Hetherington, I shot with Hetherington. The guy beat me on more than one stage. Okay, and I like stages I felt good about, and he's like, "Yeah, I just shot all the alphas a little bit faster than you." Like, bro, like where is this where my tax dollars are going to allow you? Okay, I guess it's a decent amount, a decent place for it to go. But Jay
His
Beal, oh, sorry,
his time in that match was ridiculous. He was 3 seconds faster than you overall in that match.
I
Jacob
had
was.
yes, he was. I had,
Yeah.
and I could tell you where that came from. That neither here nor there. He did better than yeah. He did amazing. He did
Yeah.
amazing. I will
That's a
say this though.
crazy.
I will say
Go ahead.
this. He was not penalty free.
Okay.
I was. That's why I say that.
You
Uh, but
got to take a win where you can get it.
yeah, exactly. Johnny won standard. I got to watch him do it. He was on fire. It was amazing. That kid is going places. Classic Jeff Cawthon. He's always been good. Uh, I didn't watch him shoot or anything, but congrats to him, definitely. With John McClain and Tim Herron taking the second and third. Revolver, I have no frame of reference. Zach Smith winning PCC. I mean, looking at the field as I see it, I probably could have called that. I did not call that initially. I wasn't looking, wasn't paying attention. Zach Smith has been a hard charger in PCC for a long time. Very high energy, positive personality on the range. But no, I'll tell you to kind of round out the show. I will tell you something. 2022 Open Nationals. I took fourth at 98.2 or 3%. So four people at 98 in
Or
1.7%
higher.
of it, right? And Aaron
Yeah.
Adams won with less than 2 points separating him from JJ in open. Just crazy compressed top of the field there. I took fourth, Seiler took third, JJ took second, and Aaron Edens won the match. And I was penalty free, and I was also at like 95% of points. And like I was very accuracy A zone focused in that match. I was leading up to World Shoot. That's what I was shooting. I was shooting only IPSC targets and training, and I was hammering,
Mm,
training for that, and it showed in
right.
open nats. I was the closest I've ever been to winning at that match, percentage wise and overall points wise. But someone messaged me after the match. And they said, "Hey man, did you know that if everyone was shooting minor, you would have won?" because I was penalty free 95% of points. And my first thought was, what the hell are you trying to say? Like, what do you want me to do with that information? Like, are you trying to make me feel bad? Because you're kind of making me feel bad. It's like, I'm going to assume you're not trying to make me feel bad, because that would be kind of a dick thing to do. So I'm going to assume that you're asking this and, uh, being, what's the word? I'm going to take it at face value, I guess. I'm not going to read into it too much. It's like, no, I was not aware of that. And like my grandpa used to say, and if a dog's asshole was square, he'd shit bricks. Okay. If woulda, coulda, shoulda, it's cool to look at and analyze. It doesn't mean anything because it didn't happen. You know, it's, I don't know. I'm reading too much into it. I'm getting too upset about something that I shouldn't get upset about. But it's just like, seriously, man, like, what are you trying to get me to say here? Like, yeah, it's bullshit. Major should go away. No, no, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. Uh,
Right.
but no, it's. I think that you can really, without looking at individual stages and performance, and like I said, just looking at percentages doesn't tell the whole story, but it can tell a story. And
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yep.
always interesting, is especially the more you know the individual shooter and how they shoot and what their track record is. Uh, I'm glad that I'm developing a reputation for finishing at the top. I've my worst placement at a nationals this year was fourth. Uh, who knows? Maybe I'll trip and fall into a win next year. Uh, but I'm not going to stop probably until that happens, and I think that's a good way to attack it. But yeah, man, it's always interesting looking to see who won and digging into the data. It's one of the
Yes.
cool things about the sport, and practice score has made that very easily attainable.
All right. So, kind of, as to use your terms to round this out, what are your goals, your personal goals in practical shooting?
I want to win a nationals at minimum.
Okay.
I'm committed to competing at one more world shoot at minimum. I would like to win that one. I'm not, knowing what I know about myself and my own abilities, I'm not going to put too much on myself for that. I am definitely focused, and I'm setting myself up. I've already set myself up. Seiler has the most points. I have the second most points for the Open national team. I would
Okay.
love, absolutely love, to represent the United States of America at the next World Shoot. I would love to earn that. I would love to be one of the best choices for that team, not just through no one else showed up. I want to prove that I should be on the team and represent. Past that, I don't know. Uh, I want to be a national champion. Like I said earlier, I want my name next to that title for my own personal selfish reasons. Past that, I don't think I'm going to stop shooting. I mean, I have enough primers on my shelf for 3 more years of competing at what I'm doing now, so I got to use them up somehow. But I don't know that I definitely can't continue at this level forever. Uh, Not even the financial side, but the physical side. But yeah, it's personal goals that are winning nationals. Uh, you
Okay.
know, area matches are excellent. They're amazing. They're great. But that doesn't. There's not a Wikipedia entry for area champions. There is for
True.
nationals, and my name is on the Wikipedia entry now for multiple nationals in for USPSA. If you type in USPSA Nationals Wikipedia and go there and Control F Vlieger, I'm there several times, and that by itself is like very fulfilling. Like I got part of what I wanted, with that by itself. But that's not where I want to end this story.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, is there anything else you wanted to touch on before we close this thing down that we didn't?
Yeah, yeah. For people who are, you know, wanting to progress in practical shooting, taking a step back can be your best bet. Having another person look at your videos and your results is great. Pursuing outside training. Tim Herron is a good friend of mine. I've seen him train people, and I have no problems whatsoever recommending people to seek him out to attend his classes. Uh, at the end of the day, you get what you put in. Okay, there is an aspect of natural ability in this sport game, what have you, but you get what you put in. Don't expect to get more out of it than you put into it. Um, and it, your reasons for being on the range don't have to be anybody else's; they can be your own. But man, be on the range with a good attitude, and I think you're going to have a good time. This sport's not going away. Yeah, say what you want about USPSA or whatever. Practical shooting in this country is not going away, so it'll still be here when you come back to it if you need to take a break. Don't be like me and get your head wrapped too hard around it to the point where you, like I said, I had freaking depression about this stuff, man. Like I got in my own head about it. Like that's not fun. That's not good. Like you can take it like anything else. You can take it too far, but yeah, have fun out there. Half the battle is the people. I can name several names of people I love shooting with, competing with, and against, and they're no longer on the range. They're still around. I still talk to them here and there, but they're not out there anymore. So this is a time in your life. Or it could be a very long time in your life, but it's going to get to the point where maybe you put it down for a while, put it down forever, and that's okay. And but it's a great time with people like-minded while you're here. On that note, my personal sponsors, obviously, I should rep my sponsors. Rafferty Custom Guns. Pat Rafferty's one of my best friends in this world, really, not just sport. He makes an amazing firearm. Shell Shock Technologies has been sponsoring me since 2017. 2-piece cases, steel and aluminum. Check them out. Look into what they're about. Mark 7 Reloading. We have the Genesis press, all-in-one automated reloading press coming out in the next few months. I know we've had delays. It's going to be awesome. I promise. As well as Titan, if you're in the commercial loading space, is hitting the ground running here very soon. And other than that, Seymour Systems, excuse me. I have 6 or 7 of those dots on all my guns. I don't plan to change anytime soon. They're great dots. And LA Police Gear and Shooters Connection are some great options for apparel and for all your shooting needs. So, and I am available on Facebook. It's John Vlieger Shooting, Vlieger, John Vlieger Shooting on Facebook, and on Instagram I am at Go Shoot Win. So love to see you pop a comment or shoot me a message if you have questions. I try to be approachable, and I might not get back to you immediately, but I will get back to you. Other than that, man, hope to see you on the range, Dave, as well as our listeners out there. And
yes,
yeah, good
hope
stuff.
to run into you here.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on, John. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.